Chapter 2457 Void Collapse. Yang Kai's complexion was ashen, the seals on his hands kept pinching, and the source force kept agitating, and it took a lot of effort to stop the black air. But looking around, his right front half-arm has been corroded horribly, dripping with blood, but the blocked black energy is like a living thing, struggling and squirming, desperately rushing towards Yang Kai's shoulder. Yang Kai suddenly raised his head, glared at Yin Lesheng, and said fiercely, "How dare you plot against me?" Yin Lesheng also had a dull expression at the moment. That Shiradisha is a secret technique not handed down by the Netherworld sect, and only the top and best disciples of each generation can practice it, and when practicing, they must connect to the real purgatory of the underworld, condensed with the yin qi of the underworld, the power of earth evil. But once the cultivation is successful, this secret technique is infinitely powerful, and it is basically powerless to resist under the Emperor Senior Realm, and it is dead in the middle. He had previously quietly hidden this ray of Shira Earth Sha on his space ring, and after Yang Kai took over, he suddenly activated the power of this secret technique, and Yang Kai was hit by it as expected. But what shocked him was that Yang Kai actually stopped the Asura Earth Shade. Although he seemed to be seriously injured, he didn't hurt his vitals, and there would be no danger of his life at all. After staying for a while, Yin Lesheng immediately came back to his senses, his body flickered, and the whole person rushed towards Yang Kai like a big rock spreading its wings. His face growled ferociously, "For revenge, Yin only fights for the day and night, 10 years is too late, Yang Kai, die." At the same time as Yin Lesheng made his move, Cheng Hao and Cheng Xian also made a move together. The two of them were surging with power, and they didn't know what secret technique they used, so that their bodies merged into one, and they turned into a streamer and hit Yang Kai. "Come here, it's awesome." The others also reacted quickly, shouting and rushing towards Yang Kai. They were forced to hand over their space rings before, and they had long held back their anger, but now that Yang Kai was attacked by Yin Lesheng and seriously injured, they naturally wanted to take the opportunity to take revenge. "Yang Kai, let's go." Lan He was taken aback, seeing the changing situation. He quickly shouted at Yang Kai. Yang Kai's face was distorted, he didn't know if it was pain or what, there was a hint of madness in his eyes, and he said in a concentrated voice, "I can't go away." He couldn't see the way to this natural formation at all, unless he had time to calm down and study it slowly, otherwise he couldn't get out of it at all. He raised the million swords leisurely in his hand, and knocked fiercely at the mountain clock. He yelled, "You want my life? I tell you to die first." Boom, a euro. Accompanied by the strike of the million swords, a halo of light suddenly swayed from the mountain and river clock, and a terrifying sound wave swept over immediately. Everyone's eyelids jumped, and they cried for their father and mother in an instant. To everyone's surprise, the sound wave didn't travel too far, but exploded directly, sending Yang Kai flying. "Ha ha ha, heaven's evil is still forgiven, and self-inflicted evil cannot live." Chang Hao was overjoyed seeing this, although he didn't know why the movement after the Shan bell was rung this time was different from just now, but right now it was the last time to kill Yang Kai. "It's a good opportunity," he yelled hard. "Everyone, let's let this Yang die without a place to bury him." The rest of the people also looked up and rushed forward one after another. Yang Kai's head was dizzy, and he was so shocked that he couldn't find the north and south. The change of Shan Zhang was also beyond his expectation. He never thought that such a thing would happen, and he didn't know if it was the work of Qi Ling. But at this juncture of life and death, the mountain and river clock suddenly trembled slightly on its own, and with this shock, the void suddenly collapsed. This natural formation covering the vast void collapsed and disappeared in an instant. Looking around, a black hole the size of a house appeared out of thin air, and the mountains and rivers turned into a stream of light, rushing directly into the black hole, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The next moment, the black hole expanded at an extremely fast speed, and at the same time, a huge and unparalleled attraction came from the black hole, involving the bodies of all warriors. What happened? What's happening here? No, get out of here quickly, the space here has collapsed. Yang, you are not human. Everyone shouted and panicked, and even Yin Lesheng, who was determined to kill Yang Kai, changed his face at this moment. How could he care about Yang Kai's life and death, and wanted to escape here as soon as he turned his head. But the suction force coming from the black hole behind him was unbelievably strong. No matter how hard he tried, he just lingered in place, unable to leave at all. And with the rapid expansion of the black hole, the suction is getting stronger and more terrifying, making every warrior feel hopeless and powerless. Yang Kai and Lan He, who were closest to the black hole, were the first to be sucked in and disappeared. A moment later, warriors screamed one after another, posing in all sorts of strange poses, and were swallowed into the black hole in panic. In less than 10 breaths of effort, dozens of warriors count as one, and no one can escape the suction of the black hole, and they are all swallowed up. And the black hole is still expanding. Until a certain moment, the black hole seemed to expand to a certain limit, and then it suddenly retracted to the center and disappeared instantly. The void returned to calm, and strong spatial power fluctuations remained in place, highlighting a change here before. In the groggy state, Yang Kai woke up, and immediately he heard Lan He's call. The pain in the arm is still unbearable, it is a pain that touches the soul, as if the soul is about to be torn apart. He had a vague sense of what happened before, but because he was blasted by the sound wave of the mountain and river bell at close range, his mind was shaken after that, and he didn't have the heart to check the surrounding situation at all. He only saw the formation of a black hole, felt a huge suction attracting him, and then came here. If he hadn't possessed such a treasure as Wen Shenlian, that shock alone would have been enough to knock him out of his wits. The yelling in the ear became more and more clear. Yang Kai shook his head, and finally recovered some spirits. He turned his head to look, but he couldn't see anything at all. There was no light here, there was only chaos and nothingness. A familiar feeling suddenly lingered in my heart. Void tunnel. Yang Kai's eyes lit up, and he whispered in surprise. This is obviously a gap in the void, a corridor in the void. The void tunnel exists anywhere in the world, but if you don't understand the power of space, you can't detect it at all, and you can't have the opportunity to enter here. Recalling the previous scene, Yang Kai immediately understood that the reason why he came to this void tunnel was entirely because the mountain and river bell suddenly erupted and shattered the void with extremely powerful power. That black hole is the most obvious sign. He endured all kinds of discomfort and pain in his body, and quickly let out his spiritual thoughts, and sure enough, he found Lan He not far away. At this moment, Lan He's situation is worrying, because she is actually entangled by an undercurrent of void, stuck in it and unable to move. There are dangers everywhere in this void corridor, and the biggest crisis is this void undercurrent. This kind of existence similar to a river is invisible and invisible, but it is formed by the confluence of chaotic space forces. Come out, you can only wait for the result of being swallowed by this undercurrent. Even Yang Kai, walking in this void corridor, has to be careful of these undercurrents. Although Lan He's cultivation is good, but he doesn't understand the power of space, and after falling into the undercurrent of the void, he is helpless and can only wait for death. Yang Kai quickly came to her side and said, "Miss Lan He." Lan He was slightly taken aback, and immediately called out, "Yang Kai." "Yes, it's me," Lan He said. "I'm entangled by a strange force, I can't get out, don't come close." She was afraid that Yang Kai would follow in her footsteps, so she quickly reminded her. Yang Kai grinned and said, "Don't worry, this is an undercurrent of the void, I will rescue you now." Lan He shook his head and said, "It won't work. I tried it. The harder you try, the deeper you sink, just like a quagmire. If you try to help, it will only be counterproductive. If you have a chance to leave this place in the future, go Heavenly Wolf Valley in the eastern region, send a message to Sirius Valley, and say that I, Lan He, died here." She seemed to feel that there was no hope of her surviving, and she had to make arrangements for her funeral. Yang Kai remained silent, squatted down, and felt it quietly beside her. Lan He talked for a while. Seeing that Yang Kai didn't answer, he said sadly, "By the way, you also take out my space ring and give it to the people of Sirius Valley." While speaking, she wanted to take off her space ring. Yang Kai suddenly stretched out his hand and patted her position, and the space power surged up and down in an instant, turning into an invisible force to affect the movement of the undercurrent in the void. After a while, the surging undercurrent of the void was directly smoothed out, and Yang Kai stretched out his hand to fish out Lan He from inside. How? Lan He still couldn't believe that she was out of trouble so easily. She couldn't help being stunned on the spot for a while, but soon, she came to her senses and lost her voice. "Could it be that you are proficient in the power of space?" Quote. Yang Kai chuckled and said, "I understand a little bit." Lan He asked in surprise, "Are you Master Li Wuyi's disciple?" It was Li Wuyi again. Yang Kai had heard this name more than once, and he already knew that he was a well-known powerhouse in the Star Realm, with a powerful cultivation base of Emperor Senior 3-layer, and also proficient in space power. It is not an exaggeration to say that this person is the strongest under the top 10 emperors. Yang Kai shook his head and said, "I have heard about it for a long time, but I have no chance to see it." He didn't intend to continue talking on this topic, so he said, I'll take you to a safer place first, and I still need to heal your wounds. After hearing this, Lan He recalled that he was attacked by Yin Lesheng before, and hurriedly said, the Asura land is truly the secret of the Netherworld sect, and the power of corrosion is extremely strong. Under the Emperor's state, there is no doubt that Zhongji will die. How are you going to be okay? Yang Kai laughed and said, you are lucky, or that kid Yin Lesheng can't cultivate well. This Shira Earth Sha is indeed terrifying. Yang Kai estimated that if other Daoyuan realm fell into this move, it would be impossible to solve it, but his strength is not comparable to the general Daoyuan realm, whether it is physical quality or the source power or the power of spiritual consciousness is far beyond the level of Daoyuan realm, so he can suppress this Shira Earth Sha. In this way, half of his arm was corroded beyond recognition. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2458 East Region Sirius Valley. Taking Lan He through the void corridor for a while, Yang Kai suddenly stopped. Lan He didn't know what happened, and didn't dare to interrupt rashly, and stood quietly aside. After a while, Yang Kai said, it's safe here, the space is relatively stable, Miss Lan He will rest here for a while, I want to heal my injuries and I will send you out after I recover from my injuries. Send me out. Lan He was stunned, but remembering Yang Kai's easy rescue of him before, he was full of confidence in him, nodded and said, okay, you don't have to worry about me, the important thing is to heal as soon as possible, the corruption of Shira Earth Sha the power is extremely strong, and the longer it is delayed, the more troublesome it will be. Yang Kai stretched out his hand, activated the space power, waved it around her a few times, and said, I left a space imprint here, if there is any change, I will be aware of it immediately and I will come over immediately. After finishing speaking, he turned around and rushed not far away. After Yang Kai left, Lan He sat down cross-legged slowly, released his spiritual sense to check the surrounding situation, and found that, as Yang Kai said, the space here is quite stable, not as big as the one he encountered before. She didn't dare to move a strange force, so she could only stay here and wait. Not far away, Yang Kai also sat cross-legged, took out a large amount of healing elixir from the space ring, and stuffed it into his mouth like eating beans. His current injuries are not too serious, and he is recovering quickly from the shock caused by the mountain and river clock. The only troublesome thing is the Shira Disha, which is tightly wrapped around his arm like a tarsal maggot. He had to run the source force to force the evil force out of his body. Fortunately, his source power is strong and pure, even if this secret technique is extremely good, it cannot resist his exorcism. Time passed little by little, and Yang Kai pushed the power of Asura Earth Sha away little by little, with a meticulous expression and orderly movements. It took about 5 or 6 days before he took a deep breath. Shira Disha has completely disappeared, but the corrosion wound on his arm has not completely healed, but given his strong physique and recovery ability, such an injury is actually nothing. After 5 or 6 days of recovery, he also recovered from the trauma of being shaken by the mountain and river clock. Yang Kai shook his arms, stood up slowly, and walked towards Lan He's position. Not long after, he came to Lan He's side and found that she was still sitting cross-legged on the spot, and the space imprint he had arranged earlier showed no sign of being touched, which meant that the place had been peaceful for the past few days and had not been affected by the power of the void. Sensing Yang Kai's arrival, Lan He also stood up and asked, Brother Yang is all right? There is no problem anymore. Yang Kai replied with a smile. That's good. Lan He also breathed a sigh of relief, paused and said, then we can go out now. Yang Kai Dao. Naturally, come and let me send you out. Lan He heard the voice behind the words, and was surprised, what about you? Do you want to stay? Yang Kai smiled slightly, and said to himself, I am very familiar with this place, there will be no danger, I want to find the mountain and river clock, it also escaped into this void tunnel, and I don't know where it went. That's it. Lan He also knew that she didn't want to persuade him too much, after all, she was not very familiar with Yang Kai, then I wish Brother Yang his wish as soon as possible. I would like to lend you a good word. Yang Kai grinned. By the way, Lan He suddenly remembered something again, and said, you said before, what do you want to ask me for? After she reminded her, Yang Kai also remembered, slapped his head and said, it is like this, I have a friend who set off from the Northern Territory more than a year ago to your Sirius Valley. Brother Yang's friend, could it be that he wants to join my Sirius Valley, but why did he start from the Northern Territory? Lan He was very surprised when he heard this. If you are a martial artist from the Northern Territory, then you should give priority to the Zongmen in the Northern Territory. There is no reason to travel to the Eastern Territory. After all, the distance between the two great domains is extremely far. It may not be possible to arrive in a few years. It's a bit tortuous to talk about, let's talk about it as we walk. Yang Kai greeted, and explained to her while taking Lan He to find the weak spot in the space. The friend he was talking about was naturally Ling Yinshan. When Chong Hao, the holy son of the Brahma Holy Land, mentioned the Heavenly Wolf Valley, Yang Kai always felt that he had heard of this sect before, but he couldn't remember it when he thought about it. Later, a flash of inspiration flashed in my mind, and I suddenly remembered it. Ling Yinshan mentioned Sirius Valley in front of him. Because Ling Yinshan's dead husband was a disciple of the Heavenly Wolf Valley in the eastern region. The two met and fell in love in the secret realm of silence, and later became husband and wife, but her husband died in the process of rescuing her, and Ling Yinshan still misses her to this day. The high-level spiritual purification array she lent to Yang Kai at that time was bought by her husband at a huge price, and it was also something she entrusted with love. Because of this, Yang Kai would work hard to ask Sander to repair it after the spirit formation was damaged, and then there were many things behind. When Ling Yinshan came out from the secret realm of silence, she also brought out her husband's ashes. The last time we parted in the Northern Territory, Ling Yinshan said that she would send the ashes to Sirius Valley so that her husband could be buried in peace. Briefly told Lan He about Ling Yinshan and her husband, Lan He also sighed, and said, then Miss Ling must be an infatuated woman. If it wasn't for being infatuated, how could you be willing to go from the Northern Territory to the Eastern Territory, just to send your husband's ashes back to the sect? You must know that this journey is not only a long way, but also full of dangers. If you are not careful, you will end up in pieces. Sister Ling is a very nice person, Yang Kai said solemnly. What's her husband's name? If he's really a disciple of the Heavenly Wolf Valley, maybe I've heard of it. Lan He asked. Yang Kai shook his head. Sister Ling never mentioned this. It doesn't matter. If you can meet this elder Sister Ling at that time, you can ask about it. Lan He didn't delve into this question either. Yang Kai Dao. Sister Ling is infatuated with her husband. I think she doesn't want to leave her husband's side even if she sends the ashes back. It's just that Sister Ling is not a disciple of Tinlong Valley after all. We'll keep her for a long time. Yang wants to ask Miss Lan, if she can see Sister Ling in the future, please take care of her for a while. If she can join the Heavenly Wolf Valley, it would be the best thing to become a disciple of the Heavenly Wolf Valley. If not, please ask Sister Ling to mourn her husband from time to time, so as to relieve the pain of lovesickness. Since Brother Yang entrusted it, there is no problem. Lan He was also a straightforward person, and agreed immediately. Yang Kai said happily, I am relieved to have Miss Lan's words. Lan He is the senior sister of Tinlong Valley, and her status is definitely not comparable to that of ordinary disciples. Since she promised, she will definitely do it. Although this woman has an ordinary appearance and an ordinary figure, she has a heroic spirit of her own, and she does not give way to a man. Then what is Sister Ling's cultivation level now? 3rd layer Daoyuan. Although the strength is not top-notch, it is definitely not bad. Yang Kai commented pertinently. 3rd level of Daoyuan. Lan He's eyes lit up, and he clapped his hands and said, then it is absolutely no problem to join our Sirius Valley. If someone with unknown origin may have to take a test, but since it is the person Yang Kai mentioned, this assessment can be waived, and I will tell the master when I go back. Thank you so much. Yang Kai couldn't help but heaved a sigh of relief, although he and Ling Yinshan didn't have much friendship, but at least they came out of the lonely void secret realm together. With her cultivation base, it would be no problem to join Bingxin Valley that day, and Bingyan also intends to keep her, but she is trapped by love and wants to go to Sirius Valley, and everyone can only let her go. If she can join the Heavenly Wolf Valley in the future, it would be a good place. In this way, not only will she have the backing of the sect, but she can also accompany her husband day and night. I believe Ling Yinshan will not refuse. While the two were talking, Yang Kai suddenly stopped, and Lan He followed suit. Yang Kai searched around with his spiritual sense, and said, it's here, I will tear up the space later. Miss Lan He just go out at ease, there will be absolutely no danger. Okay. Lan He nodded, clasped his fists and said, Brother Yang must be careful. If there is a chance in the future, he must come to my Heavenly Wolf Valley as a guest. Definitely, Yang Kai replied. After finishing speaking, he looked solemn, and stretched out his hand to insert into the void in front of him. The power of space rises one after another, and the law of space is turbulent in an instant, and the void tunnel becomes distorted and unstable in an instant. Lan He's face changed slightly, he held his breath and concentrated, not daring to disturb him in the slightest. Open, Yang Kai let out a low voice, and suddenly moved his hands to the sides. Under Lan He's shocked gaze, the void in front of him was like a piece of brocade being torn apart, and a gap was split in an instant. And with Yang Kai's actions, the gap is getting bigger and bigger. Lan He's eyes trembled slightly, and she was full of surprises. Tearing the void with bare hands, she has only heard about such unimaginable things, but she has never seen it with her own eyes. But now this scene was clearly presented in front of her eyes, which shocked her unceasingly. From the rift in the void, Lan He clearly saw the dilapidated scenery of the Sea of a broken stars opposite, and immediately understood that he could return to the Sea of a broken stars through this rift. Go, Yang Kai shouted. Lan He didn't dare to hesitate, and rushed towards the crack in a blink of an eye, and rushed to the opposite side in the blink of an eye. When she turned around and looked, the crack was closing quickly, and Yang Kai stood in the void corridor and waved to her with a smile. Brother Yang, take care. Lan He yelled, but the crack had already closed, and I don't know if Yang Kai heard it. After standing still for a while, Lan He sighed and found a direction to drive towards the depths of the Sea of a broken stars. Although the contact with Yang Kai was short, it seemed that a new door opened in front of her, allowing her to see how powerful Daoyuan warriors can be. Those elite disciples of the top sects, in front of a martial artist of the same level, he is as insignificant as an ant and can be killed easily. She asked herself that she couldn't cultivate to this level no matter what, and if she wanted to become stronger, she had to be promoted to Emperor Zun. An urgent thought welled up in her heart, to be promoted as soon as possible and gain more powerful power. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2459 You Are Not Dead. In the void tunnel, Yang Kai walked quickly as if walking on flat ground, completely ignoring the ubiquitous void turbulence and erratic space cracks. This place may be dangerous to others, but to Yang Kai, it is like his own back garden. Back then when he was practicing space power, he had entered this kind of place countless times, comprehended the mysteries of space, experienced the magic of space power, and he had a clear grasp of the characteristics of this kind of place. Less than an hour after separating from Lan He, Yang Kai suddenly felt a slightly hot feeling on the back of his hand, which was the induction between the star seals. His expression moved, and he immediately ran in one direction. His current star seal is the six-pointed star seal, which can be regarded as a relatively high-end existence, so he can sense the positions of most warriors from a long distance. After a while, he arrived at the place, but he looked around, and the scene he entered made him frown. Because the front is full of blood, countless broken limbs and pieces of flesh are constantly floating and sinking with the surge of the undercurrent in the void, and there is no living person in sight. On the contrary, in that area, there are 7 or 8 unknown star seals floating quietly. 7 or 8 star seals mean that 7 or 8 people died here. They were not killed by people, but fell into this void tunnel and were swallowed by the undercurrent of the void, or were strangled by the space cracks here. When Yang Kai walked over, those unknown star marks flew towards the back of his hand like some kind of traction, turning into little stars, branded into the back of his hand. Let him the six-pointed star print becomes brighter and warmer. He couldn't help feeling a little worried. Previously, everyone was swallowed by the collapsed space, and their future was uncertain. He was not worried about the lives of others. The only thing he was worried about was Yin Lesheng. This guy must not die before he finds him. If he dies, then Yang Kai has no way to find him to inquire about information. There are still some senses coming from the front. Yang Kai didn't stop much and continued on the road. The more he walked forward, the more Yang Kai could encounter the corpses of those warriors who died here and the star seals left in place. He didn't need to do anything at all, and he had already collected more than 20 star seals along the way. In other words, the more than 40 Daoyuan warriors were swallowed here, half of them died, and judging from the observation along the road, they should all be together, probably wanting to go in this direction to find the way out. It's a pity that they don't understand the power of space, they can't break the barrier of space, and they can't find the exit at all. Judging from this situation, this group of people will die sooner or later. A faint shout suddenly entered Yang Kai's ears, his eyes froze, and he quickly rushed towards the source of the sound. After a while, he came to a surging undercurrent of void. As if aware of Yang Kai's arrival, the person who shouted hurriedly rushed to Yang Kai's direction and said, "Friend, help me, don't leave me, save me." Yang Kai was indifferent. When his spiritual mind swept over him, he had already recognized who this person was, and he also knew that he was entangled by the undercurrent of the void, and he was afraid that he would be swallowed up in a while. "Where's Yin Lesheng?" Yang Kai suddenly asked. Hearing the voice, the man was slightly taken aback, and then whispered, "Yang Kai." He obviously also heard Yang Kai's voice. "Where is Yin Lesheng?" Yang Kai asked. The man smiled wryly, "Brother Yang, you save me first, everything else is easy to talk about." Yang Kai snorted coldly and said, "Chang Hao didn't even save you, why do you want me to save you?" This person is the elder sage of Brahma Holy Land. He and Chang Hao are both the holy sons of the Brahma Holy Land, and their strength is extraordinary, but no matter how powerful they are still at the Daoyuan state. If they fall into the undercurrent of the void, they will only have to wait for death. The more they struggle, the faster they will die. But there is no sign of Chang Hao here, it seems that Chang Hao has abandoned him. Chang Hao. Hearing Yang Kai mention this name, Chang Xian seemed to have been touched by a certain nerve, and he gritted his teeth and growled, "Don't mention the name of that despicable villain in front of me. Sooner or later I will kill you." I don't know what happened between the two holy sons, but Chang Xian actually hated Chang Hao. Yang Kai didn't bother to get to the bottom of it, he just sneered and said, "Let's talk about it when you have a chance to come out from here." When Chang Xian heard the words, his momentum fell to the bottom, and he cried and said, "Brother Yang, you are a big man, don't care about me like me, save me from here, I, Chang Xian, will definitely repay your kindness. Tell me first, where Yin Lesheng went." Yang Kai looked at him indifferently. Chang Xian said, "I told you, you will save me." Yang Kai asked back, "What do you think?" Chang Xian got angry and said, "Then why should I tell you?" After the words fell, he suddenly realized that he didn't seem to have the capital to be angry at this moment, and hurriedly said, "Brother Yang, don't be angry." Chang Xian made a slip of the tongue. Yang Kai hummed, "I don't have the heart to save you, and I won't save you, no matter how much you say, it's useless." Chang Xian panicked, his heart was full of anger, but he didn't dare to show it, the bitterness in his mouth was too much to eat coptis chinensis. "Although I won't save you, I can avenge you." Yang Kai sneered, "Chang Hao and Yin Lesheng are together, right? You tell me where they went, and I will kill Chang Hao for you." "Kill Chang Hao." Chang Xian was stunned for a while, and then suddenly burst out laughing, the laughter was full of madness. Yang Kai didn't bother to urge him, but just stood aside and stared at him coldly. After a while, Chang Xian stopped laughing and said with a ferocious face, "If you can find Chang Hao, I will cut him into pieces. This is easy to handle, I promise you." Yang Kai nodded, thinking that there must have been some unknown grievances between the two holy sons, otherwise Chang Xian would not be so hostile to Chang Hao. "That's where they went." Chang Xian casually pointed in a direction. Yang Kai turned his head to look over, then nodded, and with a slight movement of his hand, a moon blade slashed towards Chang Xian. Chang Xian was shocked, although he felt the energy fluctuations coming towards him, but now he is deeply trapped in the undercurrent of the void. Even if he wanted to hide, he couldn't escape, so he could only say in horror, "What are you doing?" With a soft whistling sound, Chang Xian only felt a slight pain in his arm. Yang Kai said in a cold voice, "I have accepted your star seal, just treat it as the interest of your joint attack on me before, and the rest, you can ask for blessings." While speaking, he stretched out his hand and moved along the star seal on Xian's broken arm was taken away, and he turned around and drove towards the direction Chang Xian had indicated before. "Bastard, bastard!" Chang Xian covered the wound with his other hand, and roared with a ferocious expression. Yang Kai has long since disappeared. Going all the way, about half a day later, Yang Kai finally sensed the positions of other people, but most of them were dead, or swallowed by the undercurrent of the void, or strangled by the space cracks here. The corpses were broken, leaving only stars. Yin, guiding the direction for Yang Kai. Another day later, Yang Kai had collected all the star seals of those 40 people. The 6-pointed star seal on the back of his hand finally changed after devouring more than 30 star seals, and suddenly became a 7-pointed star seal, allowing him to perceive a longer distance. It is rumored that if the star seal can be upgraded to the highest level 9-pointed star seal, he can find the inheritance of the heaven-devouring great emperor. I don't know if this is true or not, but Yang Kai is really not interested in the so-called inheritance, so he is not interested in it. Will not go to force anything. At a certain moment, Yang Kai suddenly noticed the fluctuations of several star seals coming from the front. After a little calculation, Yang Kai knew that the owner of these star seals was the last one to survive. And Yin Lesheng must be among them, because along the way, although Yang Kai found the bodies of the other two Netherworld sect disciples, he didn't see Yin Lesheng. This guy is also fate, and he survived to the end in the void tunnel, and he doesn't know how he did it. Yang Kai didn't hesitate, his figure swayed and he galloped there. After a stick of incense, he came to the place where these people were. Scanning his mind, Yang Kai found that there were only 4 people left alive. Yin Lesheng and Chang Hao were among them, and the remaining 2 seemed to be top Daoyuan experts, but Yang Kai was not familiar with them. And here are not only the 4 of them, but even the mountain and river clock that disappeared into the void is also here. This strange treasure from the prehistoric world created the birth of a great emperor and witnessed the war among the emperors. After tens of thousands of years of silence, it is now lying quietly somewhere in the void corridor. Spiritless, like a dilapidated thing, waiting for the arrival of the next owner. You are not dead. Yin Lesheng turned his head suddenly when Yang Kai came here, and looked at him in astonishment. Yang Kai is proficient in space power, which Yin Lesheng knows. Back then when the two fought in the Starlight Passage, Yang Kai used his spatial powers to shatter the Starlight Passage. What Yin Lesheng was astonished was that Yang Kai survived the shock of the mountain and river clock at such a close distance, and was hit by his own Shira Earth Sha, and at this moment, he not only survived but also alive and well. Yang Kai curled his lips and said, "You are not dead, why should Brother Yin be so surprised?" Yin Lesheng's eyes lit up, he nodded and said, okay, it's good that you're not dead." He actually looked happy for Yang Kai, and he didn't know what he was happy about. Yang Kai looked at him suspiciously, and said, "Brother Yin, it's easy to be misunderstood when you talk like this, it seems that we have a good relationship." Yin Lesheng laughed loudly. "No matter what our relationship is, it's a good thing that you didn't die anyway." Yang Kai's face turned cold, and said, "I'm not dead, you are dead." The old god Yin Lesheng said genuinely, "There is no grievance between you and me, how about we all smile here and put an end to our grievances?" Yang Kai stared and said, This, I heard it right, Brother Yin, you actually want to laugh at me. Is your brain broken?" Chang Hao and the other 2 also had weird expressions on their faces. After all, they had seen the previous conflicts and grievances between Yang Kai and Yin Lesheng. Change. To be continued. This text is provided by the Dawn Update Group at ch8296929 Dian Hanji. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2460 Transaction. Phone reading. Yin Lesheng smiled and said, "My head is not broken, but I am very clear-headed." Read the full text of the latest chapter on pinshu.com www.vodtao.com because I know that Brother Yang's strength is indispensable if I want to leave this place. Yang Kai raised his brows and said with a hey smile, "I understand what Brother Yin means, but, why do you think I will take you out?" Yin Lesheng said in a deep voice, "Don't you want to find out about that puppet? That puppet is of great use to you, right?" Hearing Xiao Xiao, Yang Kai's expression sank, and he shouted, "Where is it?" Yin Lesheng chuckled, calmly said, "Brother Yang really values a euro it very much. Since Brother Yang has something to ask for, so do I. Why don't we make a deal?" Yang Kai gritted his teeth, although he wished he could rush over and beat Yin Lesheng, and then force him to ask about his whereabouts, but brute force can't solve the problem at this time. As long as Yin Lesheng didn't tell him the little news, Yang Kai would have nothing to do, and even if he did, Yang Kai couldn't be sure whether what he said was true or not. Compared with killing Yin Lesheng, Yang Kai wanted to know little information. After pondering for a while, he nodded and said, "How to trade?" "Let's hear it." Yin Lesheng said, "You take me out of this ghostly place, and I will tell the truth about the whereabouts of that puppet." Yang Kai sneered, "How do I know what you're telling the truth? Maybe you don't even know where Xiao Xiao is." "I know." Yin Lesheng looked serious, "I might as well tell you that your puppet did fall into the eastern region with me back then, but with my strength at that time, I couldn't subdue it at all, so I kept following it. I want to find a good opportunity, but unfortunately I have never been able to succeed. I am the only one who knows where it has gone. There is no second person. Brother Yang, you better think clearly. You are here to fight me to the death, both sides will suffer, or a fair deal. Everyone gets what they need. Yang Kai said with a cold face. Tell me first, I will send you away immediately, and promise not to shoot you. Yin Lesheng chuckled and said, do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? Then what do you want? Yang Kai couldn't bear to drink. The two of you argued endlessly with each other, while the other three watched in amazement. However, although they didn't know what Yang Kai and Yin Lesheng were arguing about, they could hear some clues. Chang Hao suddenly said, Brother Yin, can he take us out of here? Yin Lesheng glanced at him and said, if he can't do it, then no one can. Why? Chang Hao asked in surprise. Advertisement. This place is a gap in the void. If you don't break the space barrier, there is no way to leave. So many of us have joined forces before and failed. Why can he do it alone? Yin Lesheng frowned and said, because this brother Yang Kai is proficient in space power. Proficient in space power? Chang Hao was surprised and happy when he heard this, and looked at Yang Kai with burning eyes, as if he saw the hope of survival. The other two were also extremely excited. He licked his lips secretly. This young master is proficient in the power of space, it's none of your business. Yang Kai glared at the three of them, feeling displeased. Chang Hao accompanied him with a smiling face. Said, Hee, brother Yang, we are not acquainted with each other now, only a few of us have survived here, if you can really leave, why don't you take us out together? Don't worry, I will definitely do it in the future, there are big rewards. Yes, brother Yang's kindness will always be remembered in our hearts. There will be repayment in the future. Brother Yang, many friends have many paths. If you come to our western regions in the future, my son will definitely welcome you. Those two people also shouted along with Chang Hao, looking at Yang Kai pleadingly. Get out, Yang Kai shouted impatiently. Hearing this, Chang Hao's expression gradually turned cold, and he looked at Yang Kai and said, Yang Kai, don't be too ignorant, although you are strong, but you can be sure to fight against me when the four of us team up, don't force us to fight against each other. You are rough. Yang Kai snorted coldly. You were not afraid of 40 people before, but now there are only 4 left, what can you do with me? If you want to die, come up and try. Chang Hao's face froze, but he also knew that what Yang Kai said was the truth. Before 40 people couldn't do anything to Yang Kai, now even if the 4 of them teamed up, they might not be able to take him down, not to mention, the rumored mastery of space warriors of strength are the most difficult to deal with, even if they cannot be defeated, escape is a first-class level. Yang Kai ignored Chang Hao and the other two, turned his head to look at Yin Lesheng, and said, since you want to make a deal with me, then come up with a statement that convinces both of us, otherwise today there is no doubt that I will die, at worst, I will go to the eastern region to find it slowly. Yin Lesheng's face darkened, and he said, Brother Yang is so confident that he can kill me. Yang Kai curled his lips and said, in this environment, I can kill you without a place to bury you. Do you think I can kill you? While speaking, Yang Kai waved his hand casually, and an undercurrent of the void suddenly seemed to be ordered, and suddenly rolled out, just like a long river, blasting towards Yin Lesheng. Yin Lesheng was startled, and quickly avoided it. After regaining his stature, his face was extremely livid. He originally thought that he had a trump card, so he didn't need to be too afraid of Yang Kai, but now it seems that the special environment here not only did not restrict Yang Kai, but invisibly increased his strength. If he really did it here, his chances of winning were not enough 20%. You must leave here quickly, lest things change. Thinking of this, Yin Lesheng said in a deep voice, Brother Yang, look at this. While speaking, he casually threw something towards Yang Kai. Yang Kai wasn't afraid that he would be deceitful. After reaching out to take it, he swept away his spiritual sense and said in surprise, oh. The contract of the soul. Yin Lesheng raised his eyebrows and said, Brother Yang recognizes this thing, then it will be easy to handle. The contract of spirit and soul is a gadget made by Emperor Yuewen, the lord of the Ghost Palace in the Eastern Territory, when he was very bored. It is simply equivalent to a contract. There is a strange power in it, so both parties who swear can't violate the content of the contract. Once they violate it, they will suffer from soul devouring. The soul deed is extremely rare in other places, and Yang Kai has seen it before, so he can recognize it and know the authority of this thing. As long as the two parties who signed the contract swear by their respective souls, after the contract takes effect, they can no longer violate it, unless they want to seek death themselves. Because the deed of soul was researched by Emperor Yuewen, and Emperor Yuewen's Yuewen Palace is in the eastern region, So it is normal for Yin Lesheng, a disciple of the Netherworld sect who is also in the eastern region, to have a deed of soul. Is this enough to show my sincerity? Yin Lesheng looked at Yang Kai seriously. Yang Kai nodded and said, since there is a contract of spirit and soul, then of course there is no problem. Yin Lesheng said, okay, you send me out of here, and I will tell you the whereabouts of that puppet. Yang Kai pondered for a moment, nodded and said, no problem. Chang Hao anxiously said, Brother Yin, take me with you too. My Brahma Holy Land and your Netherworld sect are also considered allied sects. You can't just ignore death and do nothing. Yin Lesheng frowned and glanced at Yang Kai. Yang Kai snorted. Chang Hao's life has been decided, he must die here. Chang Hao's eyes widened and he said angrily, Who wants my life? Yang Kai looked at him coldly, and snorted, whoever you leave behind will kill you. Chang Hao was stunned, and said in a daze, Changxian. Then he shouted angrily, presumptuous. I am a senior brother, and he actually wants someone to kill me. What a jerk. Yang Kai shook his head slowly, ignored him, but looked at Yin Lesheng and said, Brother Yin, make an oath. Okay. Yin Lesheng nodded, and immediately made an oath with his soul. If Yang Kai was willing to send him away from this place safely, he must inform Yang Kai of his little whereabouts. Immediately afterwards, Yang Kai also swore with his soul. When the power of the soul was surging, the light of the soul contract suddenly shone, split into two, and turned into two streams of light, pouring into the bodies of Yang Kai and Yin Lesheng one after another, making both of them snort softly. Among them, I felt that there was a layer of shackles restraining myself. Both of them knew that this was the effect of the contract of spirit and soul. Where is Xiao Xiao? Yang Kai squinted at Yin Lesheng. Yin Lesheng smiled slightly, his lips twitched, and a voice transmission reads. Yang Kai's expression changed, and he said in amazement, why is it there? Yin Lesheng said in surprise, oh, Brother Yang actually knows that place. Yang Kai said with a sullen face, I heard someone mention it not long ago, are you sure where it went? Yin Lesheng said, I saw it with my own eyes, can it be fake? I didn't know where it was at the beginning, but after living in the eastern region for a while, I realized the danger of that place. Fortunately, I didn't follow up at that time. Otherwise, I'm afraid I won't see Brother Yang today. Yang Kai's face was ashen, and he was more worried now than he didn't know about Xiao Xiao's whereabouts. Yin Lesheng and himself have already made a soul oath, and they are bound by the bond of soul, so it is impossible to lie to him, but if Xiao Xiao goes to that place, it will definitely be a disaster. His complexion was extremely ugly. Yin Lesheng smiled all over his face, and said, okay, Yin has told the truth what Brother Yang wants to know, now it's time for you to fulfill the agreement. Yang Kai glanced at him unhappily, and then suddenly stretched out his hand and inserted it towards the nearby void. Yin Lesheng stared intently, and when he saw that a crack in space was really torn open by Yang Kai, his face was both surprised and happy, and he said in a deep voice, Brother Yang is really good, if he is promoted to Emperor Zun in the future, he must be the second. Li Wuyi. Get lost. Yang Kai snorted coldly. Yin Lesheng laughed loudly. Then Yin is leaving, I hope we will see each other again. The day we meet again is when you will die. Yang Kai gritted his teeth. Yin Lesheng didn't take it seriously, and with a flick of his body, he rushed towards the space crack, and rushed to the opposite side in an instant. Seeing this, Chang Hao and the others impatiently followed, trying to escape from here by showing off their magical powers. Yang Kai looked at them coldly and did not stop them. To be continued. Opening parenthesis. Closing parenthesis. Chapter 2461 Refining Mountain and River Clocks. Chang Hao and the other three were overjoyed, thinking that Yang Kai had acquiesced, and they moved even faster. But at the moment when the three of them passed through the space crack, Yang Kai suddenly shook hands. The space rift that was torn apart was closed at once with lightning speed. Caught off guard, the bodies of the other two were chopped into two pieces, blood and internal organs flowed out all at once, and they lost all breath in an instant, looking extremely terrifying. On the contrary, Chang Hao, who reacted extremely quickly, actually retreated at the critical moment, avoiding this fatal blow. After standing still, Chang Hao glanced aside with lingering fear, then turned his head and said to Yang Kai, You really want to kill them all? Yang Kai looked at him with a heavy face, and said, No one who has offended this young master has a good end. Don't be too arrogant, I, Chang Hao, is also the holy son of Brahma Holy Land, don't think I'm afraid of you. Chang Hao roared sternly. Yang Kai looked at him indifferently. Is it finished? Chang Hao was startled, and said in amazement, what are you going to do? Let's go on the road. After finishing speaking. When he finished speaking, he suddenly waved his hands together, and the undercurrent of the surrounding void suddenly boiled, as if he had received some kind of order. They all wrapped up Chang Hao and surrounded him tightly in an instant. In fact, let him not move. Chang Hao's face changed wildly, and he desperately urged the source to struggle, but he couldn't get rid of the strange undercurrent at all. But the more he struggled, the deeper he sank. His face suddenly turned pale. He looked up at Yang Kai, and said in a trembling voice, bypass me, I am willing to pay any price, even if it is handing over my own soul brand. Handing in his own spirit mark means that he will obey Yang Kai's orders and become Yang Kai's servant in the future. As the holy son of Brahma Holy Land, he was able to put forward such a condition, which shows that he was really pushed. But at this moment of life and death, Chang Hao only wanted to survive, so how could he care about other things? Your strength is too low, what's the use of keeping it? Yang Kai raised one hand slightly, and under the ups and downs of space law, countless small space cracks suddenly appeared around Chang Hao's body, densely packed, inexhaustible. The strength is too low. Chang Hao's expression was dull. For the first time, he felt that he had been deeply insulted. Yang Kai was only a Tao origin third layer, and his cultivation was comparable to his. He actually said that his cultivation was too low. Turning from embarrassment into anger, Chang Hao said hysterically, I'll fight you. When he spoke, his face turned red, his whole body suddenly became turbulent, and an extremely dangerous aura emanated from his whole body. Seeing this, Yang Kai's face sank, and he snorted coldly, want to blow yourself up? That depends on whether you have the opportunity. Shish. Those tiny cracks in space suddenly seemed to be given life. Chi cut towards Chang Hao. After a burst of dense light sounds, Chang Hao froze in place, his expression was dull, his eyes were lifeless, the vitality of his whole body quickly dissipated, and the dangerous aura coming from his body also died down. After a while, with a soft crash, Chang Hao's whole body turned into countless fragments, scattered all over the ground, and was swallowed up by the surging undercurrent of space. Just as Chang Xian asked before, Chang Hao was really torn into pieces. A six-pointed star seal flew out from the spot, and rushed straight towards the back of Yang Kai's hand, turning into a little bit of starlight and being absorbed by his seven-pointed star seal. After killing Chang Hao, Yang Kai exhaled softly, and his depressed mood improved slightly. He stood there, frowning tightly, recalling the information that Yin Lesheng had revealed to him before. What kind of place Xiao Xiao actually went to, this is something he never thought of anyway. However, if he really went there, there would be pros and cons. Yang Kai had always been worried that Xiao Xiao would become the target of other people chasing and attacking him. Even warriors rarely set foot on it. But there is full of danger everywhere, and I don't know if Xiao Xiao can survive safely there. From this point of view, I still have to go to the eastern region. He secretly decided that after the matter of Broken Star Sea was over, he would set out to find Xiao Xiao's whereabouts. After making up his mind, Yang Kai adjusted his mood, turned his head, and looked at the mountain and river clock with fiery eyes. When the Shan Bell was born, dozens of warriors chased after it all the way to this place, but now I am the only one left in this empty tunnel, and the rest of the people leave, die. I have a lot of time. Go try to refine this mountain and river clock. Chi Hai said that this mountain and river bell is a rare treasure, which was brought out from the wild and ancient land by Emperor Yuanding. If he could refine it, then this trip to the Sea of A Broken Stars would not be in vain. However, refining such treasures is definitely not an easy task. Yang Kai didn't know how to refine it, so he could only try to use the method Chi Hai mentioned before. Emperor Yuanding endured 99 and 81 ringings of the bell and survived. Only then did he get the approval of Qi Ling and brought it out of the wild ancient land. Now Yang Kai can only follow the example of a gourd. Thinking of this, he took a deep breath, adjusted his state to the best level, and walked towards the mountain and river clock step by step. I don't know the reason, at this moment, the mountain and river clock is bright and introverted, even the complicated and mysterious patterns on the surface are no longer visible, just like a dilapidated and ordinary big clock. Even if it is thrown in front of the world will not take a look at it. But it still gave Yang Kai the feeling of a sleeping giant dragon, as if it would make a roar once it was awakened. In a short time, Yang Kai came to the front of the mountain and river clock, beyond his expectation. Until here, the mountain and river clock did not move at all. He held his breath, concentrated his attention, and carefully stretched out a hand, stroking towards the mountain and river clock. The moment Yang Kai's palm touched the mountain and river clock suddenly shook slightly, and a sound that shook the world suddenly sounded in Yang Kai's mind. In that sound, there was a prehistoric aura, destroying the power of Yang Kai made Yang Kai dizzy for a moment, as if he was brought to the ancient barbaric period by the torrent of time. In my mind, see Blur induction. It took Yang Hua 10 days of hard work to fully heal the wounds on his soul, and that strange power also allowed him to completely refine it. In the dark, he seemed to have gained something, but it was extremely vague and uncertain. After opening his eyes, Yang Kai pondered for a while, then got up again and walked towards the mountains and rivers. In a short time, like the first time, he was sent flying by the mountain and river bell, blood spurted wildly, and directly lost half of his life. He got up in embarrassment and quickly healed his wounds. In the following days, Yang Kai has been repeating this process, healed by the shock, continued to try to refine and subdue, and then healed by the shock. What he is most grateful for is that he has cultivated a strong body and possesses the treasure of heaven and earth such as the 7-colored warming lotus. No matter what he lacks, it is not enough to support him to carry out such a move. Even if he is not shocked to death on the spot, he will still be injured hidden dangers, but his strong body and warming lotus are enough for him to fully recover. And as time went by, the time it took for him to recover became shorter and shorter, and the injuries he suffered each time gradually became lighter. The accumulation of that weird power made him gradually realize what kind of power it was. 2 months later, Yang Kai was finally able to withstand Shan Zong's blow and was safe and sound, but flew out again in the second blow. 3 months later, he was able to withstand 5 consecutive shocks. After half a year, 20 times. A year later, 60 times. Progress can be described as swift. 1.5 years later, on a certain day, Yang Kai's face was full of vicissitudes, his clothes were ragged, his head was unkempt, and his ragged clothes were full of blood coagulation residues. He looked extremely bleak, but his aura became more and more vigorous, deep, unpredictable. He closed his eyes and covered the surface of the mountain and river clock with his hands. At this moment, this prehistoric treasure once again restored the appearance that Yang Kai had seen it for the first time. The whole body was radiant, and the countless complicated Austrian pictures on the surface of the clock swam like fish, shuttling back and forth, filled with a strong prehistoric atmosphere. The sound of a bell echoed in Yang Kai's mind, and each sound was enough to make a martial artist at the peak of Tao origin realm vomit 3 liters of blood and retreat. But the expression on Yang Kai's face was as sweet as sugar. Not only did he not feel any pain, but he also looked like he had gained a lot. Boom, boom, boom. 10 times, 20 times, 30 times. Yang Kai remained motionless. 50 times, 60 times, 70 times. His expression finally became serious, but he was still fine. It wasn't until 70 times later that the sound from the sea of a euro consciousness made Yang Kai's complexion turn pale, and his whole body was surging, as if he might not be able to support it at any time. But he still stood still, enduring the violent shock of the mountain and river clock. It wasn't until the 80th time that Yang Kai suddenly let out a muffled snort, blood overflowed from the corner of his mouth, and his whole body shook slightly, almost flying out. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn Update group at AOI paragraph mark S. A centi per mil. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is the author's greatest motivation. Chapter 2462 Emperor Yuan Transformation. At this last juncture, Yang Kai braced himself and remained motionless. Boom, a euro. The 81st bell rang as expected, and the violent impact almost tore his whole body into pieces. The pain that penetrated deep into his soul made him growl like a beast. In the 7 orifices, chi blood flowed out, and his face was terrifying. The ferocious savage power was raging and boiling in his body, and the sound of dislocation of bones was continuous. Yang Kai felt as if he was going to die. The breath of death made him feel cold all over, his hands and feet were cold. With a loud shout, he summoned up his own source of energy and brought his cultivation to the limit. It was just a moment, but Yang Kai felt as long as tens of thousands of years. When the aftermath of the shock disappeared, Yang Kai's eyes suddenly burst into a gleam. It worked. After a year and a half of hard work, he finally withstood the 81 ringing of the Shan bell without injury. Although his appearance looked a little miserable, he was not sent flying out. If what Chi Hai said before is true, then his hard work and tenacity can be recognized by Shan Zhongqi, and he will become the new owner of Shanzhong. Thinking of this, Yang Kai raised his head and looked at the mountain and river clock with a full face. What he could see made him stunned. Because the surface of the mountain and river clock, there was a dazzling light again. Yang Kai suddenly turned pale and became shocked. He has witnessed this situation countless times in the past year and a half. Every time the surface of the mountain and river clock glows, it is the time when the bell rings. Still coming, Yang Kai suddenly felt a sense of despair and powerlessness. With his current strength, it took such a long time to withstand 81 shocks at a time. It is the limit of the limit. If there is another one, he will never be able to bear it. It is very likely that there is a danger of death. The first thought in his mind was to pull back, to save his life first. Regardless of whether the method Qi Hai said was ineffective or the records in the classics were wrong, he had already tried his best, and even if he failed, he would have no regrets. But then, he felt a little unwillingness again. I have worked so hard, and if I give up at this time, wouldn't all the previous efforts be in vain? A surge of hot blood suddenly surged in his chest, and Yang Kai shouted loudly, advancing instead of retreating, urging his source force, and fiercely blasted towards the mountain and river clock. Something that surprised him happened. His own source power was poured into the mountain clock in front of him smoothly. This was something that had never happened before. In this year and a half of trying, Yang Kai had also I have done this before, but every time the result is that the power is rebounded and I have suffered more damage. But now, his own source power has been accepted by Shanzhong. Yang Kai was stunned for a moment, and then he was ecstatic. However, at the next moment, a shock from the depths of his heart and soul made his eyes go black, his mind went blank, and he passed out directly. The Shan bell is shining brightly, emitting rays of light from the surface of the bell, covering Yang Kai, wrapping him all over, and a prehistoric aura pervades the void. As time goes by, this phenomenon gradually disappears. It disappeared, and the mountain and river clock gradually shrank, and finally became only the size of a palm, and fell beside Yang Kai. I don't know how long it took. Yang Kai slowly opened his eyes, only to feel that there was no pain in his body. Even thinking about it, there was a tearing pain in his head, which made him unable to bear with a sound. He remembered the scene before coma clearly. The first time he woke up, he wanted to check the situation of Shanzhong. He really wanted to know whether he had succeeded in subduing the strange treasure from the wild. But looking up, the place where the mountain and river clock originally existed was actually empty, and this prehistoric treasure went to nowhere. Yang Kai's face turned black, thinking that it had shattered into the void and disappeared, and suddenly a feeling of loss came to his heart. He has worked so hard for the mountain and river clock in this void for so long, but in the end he got nothing. It is not so easy to accept this matter on anyone. But soon, Yang Kai noticed something was wrong. Because there was a strange feeling connected to him in the dark, which made him involuntarily cast his eyes aside. In the field of vision, a small clock the size of a palm quietly floated beside him, looking simple and inconspicuous. Shan bell. Yang Kai's eyes lit up. Although the prehistoric treasure had shrunk countless times, Yang still recognized it at a glance. Surprised, he stretched out his hand, and the mountain and river clock flew to his palm, and the moment he touched it, the vague sensation suddenly became much clearer. Yang Kai was indifferent for a moment, and finally grinned. The method Qi Hai told him was correct. As long as he could withstand the 81 shocks of this prehistoric treasure, he would be able to gain its approval and become its master. The Emperor Yuan Ding was so successful in subduing it back then, and so was he. It's just that when Emperor Yuanding subdued it, he was at the third level of Emperor Zun. With the mountain and river clock, he was able to spy on the higher heaven and be promoted to the emperor. And my own Daoyuan third layer realm is naturally incomparable with the cultivation base of Yuanding great emperor back then, so it took a year and a half of effort. Although it took a long time, Yang Kai felt an unprecedented sense of satisfaction. He played with the Shan clock in his palm for a while, and after confirming that he had tamed it, he happily wanted to put it away. But to Yang Kai's surprise, it couldn't be taken into the body. Yang Kai was suspicious, and tried to refine it with source power. The strange thing was that he couldn't even refine it. In other words, although this mountain and river clock is now his possession, he can also use the power of the mountain and river clock, but he cannot refine it, let alone absorb it into his body. Could this be the characteristic of the prehistoric treasure? After all, it is a secret treasure that was born at the beginning of the world, not artificially refined, and it is reasonable that it is somewhat different from today's secret treasure. However, Yang Kai didn't go into the details, and now he was still seriously injured, and it wasn't the time to study the mountain and river clock carefully, so he could only wait for the future to get familiar with it. After putting away the mountain and river clock, Yang Kai began to heal his injuries. 5 days later, he was back to normal. Compared with a year and a half ago, Yang Kai's aura now seems more and more profound. In the process of subduing Shanzhong, he has not grown without growth, but every time he is shocked by Shanzhong, his consciousness has become the increase. Not only that, he also felt the power of the prehistoric from the mountain and river clock. It was a force that made all spirits submit, and it was extremely strange. It's hard to imagine how strong the Yuanding emperor who owned the mountain and river clock back then was. But even such a powerful person was still no match for Emperor Tianchu, and even in the Battle of Emperors, a total of 4 emperors were killed by Emperor Tianchu. Throughout the ages, the number 1 person in the star world deserves his name. This reminded Yang Kai of the one-eyed troll. The one-eyed troll was also a strong man in the ancient times. He was murderous. Countless ancient powers surrounded it, but he was killed countless by it. In the end, even if he died, the one-eyed troll, the giant pupils could not be destroyed either, and were sealed outside Fenglan City by those ancient powers. Whether it's the one-eyed troll or the heaven devourer, they are all ferocious people who regard all living beings as worthless. Life and death are only in their minds, but killing like this is against the cycle of heaven after all, and there must be disasters. Suddenly, Yang Kai felt a little enlightenment. In the dark, the future path seemed to be much clearer, and the source power in his body even began to have a miraculous change. Emperor Yuan transforms. Yang Kai was overjoyed, realizing that he had taken another big step away from Emperor Senior Realm. From Daoyuan Realm to Emperor Senior Realm, the power in the body will undergo earth-shaking changes again. The power in the Daoyuan Realm warrior's body is Yuanli, while that of Emperor Senior Realm is Diyuan. There is a huge gap in quality between the two. Generally speaking, after a martial artist is promoted to Emperor Senior Realm, the source power in his body will gradually transform into Emperor Yuan. Just like Void King Realm is promoted to Dao Yuan Realm, this transformation is a long process. Unlike Dao Yuanjing, who can take Yuan Ning pill to accelerate this transformation process, there is no shortcut to the transformation of Emperor Yuan, only hard work and accumulation of time. The Tianzhou Palace Chu Zi that Yang Kai killed earlier was an Emperor Senior Realm who had just been promoted not long ago. Although he had no Emperor Senior Realm cultivation base, he hadn't even stabilized his realm, and the Emperor Yuan hadn't even transformed. How much? So he couldn't exert the full strength of Emperor Senior stage, so he was easily killed by Yang Kai. If it were someone like Gao Shueding, with Yang Kai's strength at the time, he might not be able to beat him. Gao Shueding has been promoted to Emperor Senior Realm for some years, and she has already completely transformed Emperor Yuan. Her strength is not comparable to that of Chu Zi. But now, Yang Kai's own source power is changing towards Emperor Yuan, which is the most obvious sign that he is about to break through Emperor Senior stage. Maybe with just a chance, maybe with the waiting of time, he will finally be able to get a glimpse of Emperor Zun's mystery. After subduing the mountain and river clock, touching the threshold of the Emperor Senior Realm, absorbing so much original power, and obtaining such rare treasures as the Phoenix True Fire, Yang Kai found that this trip to the Sea of A Broken Stars was really not in vain. I don't know what other people have gained, but for him, this trip has been worthwhile. For a moment, he was refreshed, turned his head and looked around, stretched out his hand and tore apart the space barrier, and walked out of the void where he had been for a year and a half. As far as the eye can see, it is still the dilapidated and desolate scenery of the Sea of A Broken Stars. And this place is no longer the place where he entered the void, and Yang Kai didn't know where he was in the Broken Star Sea. There were no people around, but the 7-pointed star print on the back of his hand could vaguely sense some energy fluctuations coming from a very far away position. He thought for a while, and then moved towards the position where the fluctuations came from. Since there are people over there, it means there should be something good. It's not that he wants to steal other people's things, but he just thinks that maybe he can exchange information with others, and maybe he can find out some things from others that he doesn't know. For about 2 hours, he saw a broken star in the distance, and those star seal fluctuations were transmitted from that star. To be continued. This text is provided by the Dawn Update group at YC. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2463. Are you from Bingxin Valley? Before Yang Kai approached that side, a wave of Emperor Yun suddenly came from there. Yang Kai's eyeballs popped out, and he said in surprise, "Another Emperor treasure." When Shan Zhang was born before, he had sensed similar energy fluctuations. Now that he has just subdued Shan Zhang, he encountered a similar situation again, which made him feel that there are countless treasures in this sea of a broken stars. But soon, Yang Kai realized something was wrong. The fluctuation of the Emperor's rhyme is not the trace of the birth of the Emperor's treasure, because the situation over there is completely different from the situation when the mountain and river clock was born. They are gathering to show the awe-inspiring way of heaven. Promotion. Yang Kai shrank his eyes, realizing that someone was going to be promoted to Emperor Senior stage. His eyes stared at the vision of heaven and earth that had just begun to take shape over there, and his heart was full of enthusiasm. Although he knew that warriors in Broken Star Sea could break through the shackles and be promoted to the Emperor Senior stage, but it has been 2 or 3 years since he came in, and Yang Kai has not seen anyone who has reached this step. At this moment, there is such a person who has made such a feat not far from him. Emperor Prestige Realm is the highest realm on the road to martial arts, and it is the ultimate pursuit of a warrior's lifelong cultivation. This realm symbolizes great strength and extremely high status. So even though he didn't know who the person who was about to be promoted was, after seeing the vision that day, Yang Kai still couldn't help being a little excited. One day, he will climb to the peak of martial arts, and one day, he will also be promoted to Emperor Zun. Perhaps, you can go to observe it secretly. It is an opportunity not to be missed for anyone to witness the birth of an Emperor Senior realm with your own eyes. Experience of. Of course, most people don't want to be disturbed when they advance to Emperor Senior realm. But Yang Kai just went to observe, not to cause trouble, so there is no psychological burden. Thinking of this, he no longer hesitated, and galloped towards the source of the movement as soon as he moved. Not long after, he came to the broken star. He had just stood firm, and before Yang Kai had time to approach that side, 3 figures suddenly appeared around him. These 3 figures were hidden very well before. Yang Kai focused all his attention on the vision of heaven and earth over there, and he couldn't notice it for a while, until the 3 of them rushed out, and he suddenly woke up. The moment the 3 of them showed up, they launched one killer move after another, merciless in their attacks, and the flickering sword light filled the air with a bang, turning the surrounding land into frozen soil in an instant. Yang Kai couldn't help shivering, a cold light flashed in his eyes, he raised his hand and slammed in all directions, and in an instant, palm shadows appeared all over the sky. Boom 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 boom. After a violent collision, Yang Kai stood motionless on the spot, but the 3 who attacked him suddenly cried out in surprise and flew backwards. Fix the formation. One of them seemed to realize how powerful Yang Kai was, his eyes were filled with shock, and he yelled coquettishly. The other 2 were obviously from the same sect who had cooperated countless times, and when they heard this, they hurriedly flew to her side, and they didn't know what secret technique they used, and the aura of the 3 of them merged into one place all of a sudden. Yang Kai didn't have the time to look at the 3 of them until this time, and what he saw made him raise his brows and hurriedly raised his hands. Wait. The 3 people who formed the formation looked at Yang Kai with cold faces, and didn't intend to speak to him at all. As the 3 long swords waved slowly, the colder than before suddenly fell. Are you from Bingxin Valley? Yang Kai shouted again. He had sneaked into Bingxin Valley before, so he was quite clear about the clothes of the disciples of Bingxin Valley. The 3 women in front of him were obviously wearing the clothes of the disciples of Bingxin Valley. It's just that he didn't expect that the person who attacked him without saying a word here, looking like he was going to kill him, was actually a person from Bingxingu. There might be some misunderstanding in this. Yang Kai's thoughts turned sharply. The 3 of them were most likely guarding the person who had broken through the Emperor's senior realm, and their arrival made them feel wrong, that's why they acted involuntarily. Yang Kai's questioning didn't stop their movements. The posture of the 3 of them seemed to be about to perform some shocking killing move, and Yang Kai couldn't help being moved by the surging energy fluctuations. He had no choice but to report his family name. My name is Yang Kai, I don't know if the 3 girls have heard of it. As soon as this remark came out, it really had an effect. The movements of the 3 women stopped, and they all looked at Yang Kai in amazement, and the icy cold covering the world gradually dissipated. The leading woman said in amazement, "Are you Yang Kai, senior brother Yang?" Exactly. Yang Kai breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that the 3 of them had indeed heard his name before. After all, he had done a lot for Bingxin Valley in the previous Ice Wheel City. It looks a bit similar, whether it is the outline or the figure, it is similar to the image that the elder sister showed us. It's just too dirty, I can't even see my face clearly. The clothes are still tattered. The three women got together and muttered for a while, and kept looking at Yang Kai, as if they wanted to confirm his identity. Although the voices of the three of them were soft, Yang Kai could still hear them clearly, and they couldn't help but slap their heads in embarrassment. He had been in the void for a year and a half, during which time he had been trying to subdue Shan Zhang, but he was injured again and again, making himself a ghost. After successfully subduing Shan Zhang, Yang Kai was overjoyed. Next, I forgot that I was still looking sloppy now. If these three Bingxin Valley disciples hadn't reminded him, he might not have realized it. Thinking of this, Yang Kaiyuan pushed all the blood coffee off his body, and at the same time stretched out his hand. Under the surging sword energy of the Immortal 5 Elements Sword Energy Water, a ball of water immediately appeared in his hand. He rubbed his face hard a few times, then raised his head, smiled brightly at the three of them, bared his white teeth and said, "Take a closer look, you three. Ah, it's really Senior Brother Yang. That's right, it's Senior Brother Yang." After confirming that it was undoubtedly Yang Kai, the three cheered and jumped up, put away their hostility, and walked towards Yang Kai with embarrassment. The leading female disciple clasped her fists in embarrassment and said, "Senior Brother Yang, don't blame me, my seniors and sisters thought you were the enemy who came after us, so we just shot rashly, and please Senior Brother Yang, don't be too fussy with us." Quote, "It's okay." Yang Kai waved his hand and asked, "Is someone chasing you?" The woman nodded and said, "Yes. I've been chasing you for days." "Who?" The woman's complexion sank, she gritted her teeth and said, "Who else can it be except the young sect master of Qingqing sect?" "Feng Shi." Yang Kai raised his brows and said unexpectedly, "Although Feng Shi is strong, you are not bad, how can you be afraid of him?" The woman said, "If it was Feng Shi from before, we would naturally not be too afraid, but a few days ago, senior sister, she was floating with energy, and she was obviously on the verge of breaking through, so I would not dare to fight with Feng Shi rashly, lest let the elder sister miss the opportunity to break through." Big sister. Yang Kai's eyes lit up, he glanced at the place where the heaven and earth visions gathered, and said in surprise, "So, it is Miss Ziyu who is breaking through the Emperor Senior realm now?" "Yes. When we came here, the senior sister could no longer suppress it. We could only choose to break through here. Our three senior sisters were responsible for guarding and defending. When Senior Brother Yang arrived, we thought it was Wen Qingzong. That's why." When she said this, her face turned red. After all, they were indeed a little reckless when they shot at Yang Kai without asking why. Yang Kai smiled slightly and said, "Miss Ziyu is really a genius, which is admirable." He also didn't expect that the person who broke through to Emperor Senior realm here was Ziyu from Bingxin Valley. He had dealt with Ziyu a little before, and although he wasn't too familiar with her, he also knew that she was the best disciple in Bingxin Valley. Now she really lived up to the expectations of everyone in Bingxin Valley, and realized the opportunity for a breakthrough after entering the Sea of A Broken Stars for 2.5 years. The female disciple of Bingxin Valley said, "The elder sister said that Senior Brother Yang is the most powerful, but the elder sister rarely praises others. Even Feng Shi who asked about the love sect, she doesn't think much of it, but she treats Senior Brother Yang you are so respectful. That's why after we met in the Sea of A Broken Stars, she specially showed us your video and told us to treat you with courtesy." That's right, we've all heard about what Senior Brother Yang did in Binglan City. Senior Brother Yang is really amazing. Yang Kai chuckled and said, "Miss Ziyu is no worse than anyone else, she just said that to save face for me. Didn't you see that she is now promoted to the Emperor Senior realm while I am still wandering in the Dao Origin realm?" Hearing what he said, the three of Bingxin Valley remembered that Yang Kai seemed to be still at the 3rd level of Daoyuan, but his own senior sister had already broken through Emperor Senior. Regardless of whether Ziyu will succeed or not, at least she is ahead of Yang Kai in this step, so in the eyes of the three women, she is indeed no worse than Yang Kai, and even better. Yang Kai looked serious, and said, "There are many dangers in breaking through Emperor Zun. Throughout the ages, countless favored sons of heaven have disappeared on this level. Ziyu hastily broke through, but what is she sure about?" One of the Bingxin Valley disciples said. The elder sister said that she is only 60% sure. The other two women also showed worried expressions. 60%. Yang Kai frowned. The odds are not too high. Even if Ziyu fails to break through, it is not surprising that she died under the baptism of the energy of the day. Besides, the people who asked about Qingzong have been chasing us, and I don't know if they will find this place. Yang Kai Dao. Don't worry, since I'm here, I'll wait here with you, and if the people who ask the Qing sect really dare to come, I'll tell them not to come back. When he said this, Yang Kai the face is murderous. There is still an old score between him and Feng Shi. Feng Zai's Emperor Zhu Pil made him suffer a lot that day. If he hadn't retreated in time and had extraordinary strength, he would have been killed by Feng Shi long ago. Up. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn Update group at AOI paragraph mark S. A cent per mil. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is the author's greatest motivation. Chapter 2464 Enthusiasm remains. Phone reading. Emperor Zhu Pil has always been a rare item. Even if Feng Shi is the young suzerain of Wenqing sect, it is impossible to have many Zhu Pils in his hand. His one has been used up before, and Feng Shi without Emperor Zhu Pil is just a sick cat. Yang Kai doesn't need to pay attention to it at all. Before entering the sea of A broken stars, he could easily crush warriors of the same level, and he can be called an invincible existence in the Tao origin realm. In the sea of A broken stars, he comprehended the supernatural powers of Emperor Suiyu and subdued Shanzhong. Still, the source has grown a lot. Yang Kai believed that if he faced Feng Zai's Emperor Zhu Pil at this time, he would never be as embarrassed as last time. Senior brother Yang must not be careless. Feng Shi is no longer what he used to be. Seeing that Yang Kai didn't take Feng Shi seriously, the female disciple of Bingxin Valley quickly reminded her. But before she could finish her words, Yang Kai suddenly raised his head and looked in a certain direction in the void, and shouted, "Here we come." Here, the three female disciples of Bingxin Valley were stunned when they heard the words, and they all looked in the direction he was looking at, but even if they released their spiritual thoughts, they couldn't find anything. Yang Kai smiled slightly and said, "My star seal is the seven-pointed star seal, so the sensing distance is much farther than yours. Feng Shi is also the seven-pointed star seal." One of the Bingxin Valley disciples turned pale. Senior brother Yang can sense them, so Feng Shi must have sensed us too. How many of them came? Yang Kai Dao. I sensed two, so it should be three. If Feng Shi had the seven-pointed star seal, Yang Kai would naturally not be able to sense his existence, but what puzzled him was that Feng Shi also had the seven-pointed star seal. How did he do that? I have collected the star marks left by dozens of warriors after their deaths in the gap in the void. He was able to possess the seven-pointed star seal. How could Feng Shi kill dozens of people? Although his strength is not bad, he is not so powerful, right? Among the warriors in the sea of A broken stars, which one is easy to provoke? While he was wondering, Yang Kai's spiritual sense had swept into the aura of the three of them. He was quickly approaching this way, and one of them was particularly familiar to him, and it was undoubtedly Feng Shi. The next moment, Yang Kai's eyes widened, and he said in surprise, "This." When did Feng Shi advance to the Emperor Senior realm? He clearly sensed a clear imperial charm lingering on Feng Zai's body, although the strength in his body is not too stable yet. But there is no doubt that he has been promoted to Emperor Senior stage. This discovery shocked him even more than when he learned that Ziyu had made a breakthrough here. I just stayed in the void for a year and a half, and such a huge change happened outside. First, Ziyu had already started to break through, and later, Feng Shi had already been promoted to Emperor Zun. What about the other proud sons of the sect? Will they all have been promoted or are in the process of being promoted? It is precisely because Feng Shi has been promoted to Emperor Senior realm that our sisters are no match at all. We can only flee in embarrassment. Fortunately, his realm is not too stable, otherwise we have no way to escape. The Bingxin Valley disciple smiled wryly, said. Yang Kai suddenly came to his senses, and only then did he understand why she said that Feng Shi was no longer what it used to be. Daoyuan realm and Emperor Senior realm, although the gap is only one realm, it is a world of difference. Senior brother Yang, you'd better go. The Bingxin Valley disciple hurriedly said. Feng Shi has a grudge against you. If he sees you, he will definitely not let it go. What do you guys do if I leave? Yang Kai glanced at her. The woman said. Feng Shi has been chasing us. It's not to kill us, but just to force the elder sister to submit, so we don't actually have to worry about our lives. Yang Kai Dao, even if Feng Shi has no intention of killing you guys. At this time, Ziyu is being promoted, do you think Feng Shi will just sit back and watch? Asking Qingzong to enter the Tao with love, Feng Shi must have absolute strength to suppress Ziyu if he wants to get Ziyu, so no matter what, Feng Shi will not watch Ziyu succeed in promotion. He will definitely intervene, because once Ziyu was promoted successfully, he would have no advantage. But this is a critical moment. How to get people to intervene? If the person who takes the shot is well controlled, it should be possible for Ziyu to fail in promotion without worrying about his life. If the control is not good, Ziyu will die directly under the catastrophe of that day. No matter what kind of result it is not acceptable to Ziyu. The three female disciples of Bingxin Valley obviously also thought of this level, so after Yang Kai finished asking, the three female disciples were all worried, not knowing what to do. Perhaps, we can replace elder sister and let Feng Shi stop here. One of them suggested bitterly. The other two women turned pale, but remained silent. Yang Kai snorted coldly. It's not that I hit you, nor is it that you are not beautiful, but you think Feng Shi has countless wives and concubines. What kind of beautiful women have you never seen before? Since he has taken a fancy to Ziyu, he will not give up easily. It can be said that Miss Ziyu is already a hurdle in his heart, and he must find a way to overcome this hurdle. The three of you cannot replace Ziyu. Then what should we do? Fight with them? Yang Kai sneered softly, and said lightly, don't worry, if they really dare to come, I will tell them to come and go. As soon as the words came out, the three women all looked at Yang Kai in astonishment, their faces full of surprise. If it is said that Yang Kai said this before because he didn't know that Feng Shi had been promoted to the emperor, and some information was insufficient, then now he dared to say this after knowing Feng Zai's true strength, it seems arrogant. No matter how powerful Yang Kai is, he is only at the Dao origin realm. How can Dao Yuan realm be an enemy of Emperor Senior realm? The two are not on the same level at all. If they really do it, Yang Kai will definitely die miserably. Yang Kai saw that their expressions were different, and knew what they were thinking, but he didn't explain much, but looked solemn, and said, the power of the Emperor Senior realm attack is extraordinary. Miss Ziyu is at the critical moment of promotion, and she can't stand it for a while. Interference, so I will find a way to lure Feng Shi away later, and the three of you will do your best to guard and protect Miss Ziyu. Senior brother Yang, are you planning to? A Bingxin Valley disciple suddenly covered his red lips with his hands, and looked at Yang Kai in gratitude and shock, as if he understood what he wanted to do. He is obviously disregarding his own safety to create space and time for Ziyu to be promoted. She suddenly looked down, and said, Senior brother Yang, I will be with you. Yang Kai frowned and said, what can you do with me? She bit her red lips and said, I can do whatever senior brother Yang can do. She looked like she put life and death aside. Yang Kai laughed and said, no, I can do it alone. After finishing speaking, without waiting for her to pester her anymore, Yang Kai flew towards the void and said, looking at Ziyu so closely, it will be of great benefit to you all, don't miss the opportunity. When the words fell, he had disappeared. The three people left in Bingxingu looked at the void worriedly, wondering if they should go with him to help. But now Ziyu needed someone to stay here to guard them, and they didn't dare to act rashly. They were anxious like ants on a hot pot. In the void, the three Wenqing sects who were rushing towards this side were all in high spirits, and the leader was the young sect master Feng Shi. Since Feng Shi was promoted to Emperor Senior Realm half a year ago, the three of them were invincible in this sea of a broken stars. Thanks to Feng Zai's blessing, the two disciples who followed him also upgraded their own star seal to the level of the 6-pointed star seal. And Feng Shi even has the 7-pointed star seal. One can imagine how many people they killed and how many people's star marks and things they robbed during this time. The strength of Emperor Senior Realm made Feng Zai's self-confidence burst, and he felt that there was no one in the world who was his opponent. While galloping, Feng Shi suddenly frowned, his figure paused in the void, squinting and looking forward. Young sect master, what's the matter? Seeing this, the other two hurriedly stopped and looked at him suspiciously. Feng Shi said lightly, there is a person coming up to meet you. One of the yellow-faced youths turned violent when he heard the words, and snorted coldly, who is so reckless that he dares to attack the young sect master? Another middle-aged man dressed as a Confucian scholar also said, probably some guy who doesn't have long eyes, just kill him. Feng Shi nodded lightly, and said, to kill is to kill, but this person's breath feels very familiar, as if I met him somewhere before. While speaking, Feng Shi actually felt extremely uneasy. His heart was beating wildly, which made him unsteady, which surprised him. Since he was promoted to Emperor Senior Realm, no matter how many enemies he faced, this kind of situation never happened. He thought he had reached the state where the ancient well was calm, but now there are ripples in his mind. Who is it? Feng Shi suddenly became a little concerned, squinting and looking over there. After a while, a ray of light shot from afar, and suddenly landed not far from the three of Wenqingzong. The light dispersed, and a face that Feng Shi was familiar with but hated suddenly appeared in his eyes. How is it possible? Feng Zai's face changed wildly. He looked at Yang Kai in shock, and couldn't believe his eyes. 2.5 years ago, when he first entered the fragmented Star Sea, he teleported to a place with Yang Kai. Knowing that he was not Yang Kai's opponent, he decisively sacrificed the Emperor Ju pill. Under one blow, Yang Kai lost all breath. He thought that Yang Kai had already died without a place to bury him. Facts have proved that for more than 2 years, he has never met Yang Kai at all, nor heard any news about Yang Kai. This annoying guy almost disappeared from Feng Zai's memory. But now he appeared in front of him like a ghost, and he seemed unscathed. How could such a thing happen? A Daoyuan realm forcibly ate the power of one of his Emperor Ju pills, but he didn't die. Feng Shi was almost in a mess, and lost his voice. Are you a human or a ghost? Yang Kai grinned, showing a mouthful of white teeth, and said, it's been 2 years since I've seen you, and the young master is still enthusiastic. How can someone answer such a sensitive topic as soon as he comes up? To be continued. Chapter 2465 Devil. Feng Zai's face was gloomy and uncertain, and his spiritual sense kept scanning Yang Kai's body. All the humiliation he had suffered in the past suddenly came to his heart, making Feng Zai's aura suddenly violent. More than 2 years ago, I was not his opponent, so I used the Emperor Ju pill, but today the situation is completely different. He has been promoted to Emperor Zun, but this bastard is still only in Daoyuan realm, with a huge gap in strength. Thinking of this, Feng Zai's dull mood suddenly relaxed. He smiled coldly at Yang Kai, and said, it doesn't matter if you are a human or a ghost, since you met this young master today, there is no good end for you, you are doomed to die. Oh, the young sect master is so fierce that he wants to eat people. Yang Kai looked at him teasingly, and said, actually, I'm curious about one thing, how the young sect master can be promoted to Emperor Senior Stage. €1. Feng Shi smiled proudly, and said, this young man's talent is so high that ordinary people like you can look up to him. Yang Kai Dao. That's right, but judging from the particularity of the exercises you asked about Qingzong, shouldn't Yang's existence be your demons? If you can't get rid of your demons, how can you stabilize your emperor prestige? Come down, Aura Euro. Yang Kai grinned, showing a sinister smile, and said, young sect master thought that Yang was dead, so he was promoted to Emperor Zun with peace of mind. Is there really no problem for you to do this? As soon as these words came out, Feng Zai's face changed wildly. Under Yang Kai's burning gaze, he seemed to be hit by a sledgehammer, and his body shook slightly and took 2 steps back. There was a light click. It was a sound from the depths of his heart. Feng Zai's face turned pale, and he felt that something in his body seemed to be split. Dao Shin. A crack appeared in one's own Dao heart, and the origin of all this was only because of Yang Kai's words. As early as in Binglan City, Yang Kai's various provocations and practices had already made his existence a demon in Feng Shi's mind. If this demon is not eliminated, Feng Shi's cultivation base will be difficult to improve. He thought that he had killed Yang Kai before, so he was in a happy mood and his thoughts were clear, so that he could be promoted to the Emperor Senior Stage in the Sea of A Broken Stars. But the facts proved that Yang Kai, the heart demon, did not die, but appeared alive and kicking in front of his eyes again. Yang Kai's words directly aroused the heart demon that he thought had been cut off again, thus affecting his Dao heart, causing cracks to appear in his Dao heart. Feng Zai's face was instantly pale and bloodless. He gritted his teeth and shouted angrily, die. I want you to die. He seemed to be insane all of a sudden, and his whole body was filled with unimaginable violence. As soon as he raised his hand, a beam of Emperor Yuan blasted towards Yang Kai. The disciples were all thrown out, and they managed to stabilize their bodies, and looked towards Feng Shi in horror. The two of them had never seen Feng Shi in such a hideous and terrifying state, and at a glance, they knew that Feng Zai's demons were surging at the moment, and he was a sign of going crazy. They were so frightened that they quickly called out loudly, wanting to kill Feng Shi. Pull back from the brink of obsession. Yang Kai laughed loudly, facing Feng Zai's fierce but disorderly blow. He easily avoided it with a flash of his body, looked at Feng Shi contemptuously, hooked his fingers, and continued to provoke, young sect master, if you want to kill me, follow me, or I will leave. As he spoke, he rushed directly into the depths of the void. With red eyes, Feng Shi roared again and again, and followed closely behind. The yellow-faced young man and the Confucian scholar looked at each other, and also chased anxiously. Both of them cursed Yang Kai in their hearts for being despicable and shameless, and deliberately sprinkled salt on the young suzerain's wound, which caused the young suzerain to be in a mess. If he didn't calm down, the young suzerain might really go crazy. After all, the young sect master has only been promoted to the emperor senior stage for a short time, and the realm is unstable, and now Yang Kai has attracted the demons, which is a very bad omen. But in this situation, the two of them can't do anything, they can't help Feng Shi, they can only pray that Feng Shi can get out of that anger. While the four were chasing and fleeing, they quickly left the place where the broken star where Ziyu and others were. The reason why Yang Kai wanted to do this was because he was afraid that the aftermath of his actions would interfere with Ziyu's promotion, but he never thought that Feng Shi would be angered by him so easily. From the looks of it, this guy either didn't have enough Xinxing cultivation, or he hated himself too much, so he ran away in anger in a few words. An hour later, when Yang Kai was about far enough away from Ziyu and the others, he suddenly stopped, turned around and coldly faced the three Wenqing sects who were chasing from behind. He was slightly taken aback by what he saw, because during this hour of pursuit, Feng Shi gradually calmed down. Although his face was still very angry, it was no longer the uncontrollable violence before. At this moment, Feng Shi still had some clarity in his anger. Yang Kai couldn't help being amazed by this, thinking that this guy really has some skills. No wonder he was able to advance to the Emperor Senior stage in such a short period of time. It seems that he is not an idiot. Feng Shi was standing 100 feet away from him, and the yellow-faced youth and the Confucian scholar quickly chased after him and lined up beside him. Seeing that Feng Zai's condition had improved, both of them secretly breathed a sigh of relief. The Confucian said in a low voice, "Young sect master, no matter what he says later, you must remember not to get angry easily." "Young master knows." Feng Shi snorted impatiently, then looked at Yang Kai indifferently and said, "You brought this young master here to let Ziyu break through with peace of mind." Yang Kai raised his eyebrows and said, "Young sect master's IQ is still quite high, even this can be guessed." Feng Shi snorted coldly, "Obvious thing. But it's meaningless." Yang Kai wondered, how can this be meaningless? Maybe Ziyu has been promoted to the Emperor Senior stage after a while. Feng Shi sneered and said, "What do you think the Emperor Prestige realm is? Children play house. Anyone can break through it casually. It will take a while for Ziyu to break through the Emperor Prestige realm, but Ben Shao killed you, but he just waved his hand. There is no time to find her after Ben kills you." Yang Kai said with a sullen face, "Young sect master, it makes people very unhappy to say that." He raised the corner of his mouth and sarcastically said, "I didn't kill me last time, why do you think you can do it? Kill me." Feng Zai's face became angry when he heard the words, and when he was about to say something, he suddenly took another deep breath, calmed down the excitement in his heart, and said lightly, "Last time, this young master was negligent and let you get away with it. Take back a dog's life, but this time is different." He looked ferocious, and said in a solemn voice, "This time, I will tear you to pieces with my own hands." Yang Kai said coldly, "Young sect master, don't talk too much, be careful that there will be no way to end later." He. Feng Shi smiled slightly, and said, "Actually, I should thank you. If you hadn't appeared in front of me at the right time this time, I'm afraid I really thought you were dead long ago. If you continue to practice, when you hear the news that you are still alive, maybe this young master will go mad and burn himself to death. But now it is different, this young master only needs to kill you to make up for his Tao heart. Make your cultivation perfect, and maybe even go to a higher level." At this point, his eyes were shining like stars. Yang Kai said solemnly, "Unexpectedly, I am so useful to the young sect master, how should the young sect master thank me?" Feng Shi proudly said, "You take action, otherwise you will die later, don't blame me for not giving you a chance." Yang Kai laughed loudly, "Since the young master is so sincere, then this young master will not be polite." As soon as he raised his hand, a million sword appeared in the palm of his hand. When the source power surged, the wide long sword slashed forward fiercely. A huge sword light appeared across the sky, as if about to break through the void, and slashed towards it. The power of this sword has demonstrated Yang Kai's extraordinary strength, which is far from what Tao Origin Realm can display. The yellow-faced young man and Confucian scholars standing beside Feng Shi were shocked, their hands and feet were cold and their whole body was cold when facing the peerless sword energy. Sure enough, Feng Shi was happy and fearless, and said with a sarcasm, "How can the light of fireflies compete with the bright moon?" While speaking, he also took out a long sword, and with a slight shake, he pointed it forward. This sword point was in the void, but it miraculously shattered the huge sword point, and it fell apart in an instant. The yellow-faced youth and Confucian scholars were overjoyed when they saw this, and they all applauded loudly. "Go away." After Feng Shi deflected Yang Kai's attack with one move, he was suddenly full of energy, and shouted at the two people who were in the way. The two didn't dare to be disobedient, they hurried to the side and watched from a distance. "Yang Kai, you really are not an ordinary Daoyuan realm. If you are in the arena of Ice Wheel City, this young master is definitely not your opponent, but this world's warriors, with one strength down 10 times, this young master's realm is one level higher than yours. How can you compete with me?" He kept talking, but his hands were not idle, and the sword light turned into a sword net between the swords, and suddenly enveloped Yang Kai. Not only that, when he swung his sword, an indescribable artistic conception suddenly pervaded. Yang Kai was affected by this artistic conception, and gave birth to an extremely uncomfortable feeling, which made him lose his fighting spirit, and made him constantly churn out various memories in his mind, recalling himself in the past with Su Yan, Shanning Shang, and Shan. The past between Qinglo and Shuiyu is warm and fascinating. Yang Kai was startled, knowing that this is the strange supernatural power of Wenqing Wushengong, which can affect his emotions and desires, which cannot be underestimated. He bit the tip of his tongue to dispel all kinds of discomfort in his mind. The million swords flickered back and forth, the sword energy fluctuated, and he fought Feng Shi to fight back and forth. A strange color flashed in Feng Zai's eyes, and suddenly he pinched the sword with one hand, and touched the sword with his finger, and said in a low voice, "The life of an ant, what's the use of struggling, die to me." Boom, a euro. The sky-shattering sword energy rushed straight, as fast as thunder. Yang Kai's face changed wildly. He found that he couldn't avoid the blow with his body and speed, and in a hurry, he could only cast the void secret technique to exile himself into the void. The body suddenly faded, and the sword energy directly penetrated Yang Kai's body and flew out. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2466 Discipline. Phone reading. After a while, Yang Kai's body became solid again, but his face turned pale, and he couldn't help vomiting blood, as trademark. Although he deflected Feng Zai's blow with the secret technique of nothingness, he was still somewhat shocked. Feng Shi was in control, taking advantage of the moment when Yang Kai was distracted. He flew up, wrapped in the sword light, turned into a long rainbow, and bombarded Yang Kai with unrivaled momentum. The power of the Emperor's prestige suddenly filled the air, and Yang Kai's body was pressed down, and he fell back, with a look of panic on his face. "It's really boring. This young master hasn't warmed up yet and you are already dead. If you reincarnate in your next life, remember to give the strong ones the respect they deserve." As he spoke, sword energy like a rainbow slashed straight at Yang Kai. But at this moment, an inexplicable feeling of palpitation suddenly rose up, which made Feng Zai's face darken, and he became uncertain. When he looked up again, Yang Kai didn't have any panic look, but instead showed a mocking smile on his face. What happened? This kid is only in the Dao origin realm, but at this moment of life and death, he actually showed such a weird smile to himself. Could it be that he has something to back him up? When his thoughts turned sharply, Feng Shi gritted his teeth, obeyed his intuition, stepped a little, and then drifted back. And the moment he retreated, a huge moon blade suddenly cut in front of his toes, and the torn space crack was filled with an extremely disturbing atmosphere. Hiss! Feng Shi gasped, and stared at the moon blade with wide-eyed eyes, with a look of disbelief on his face. This blow was extremely secretive, silent and powerful, and he believed that if he hadn't dodged it in time, this blow alone would have seriously injured him. What kind of power is this? Feng Zai's complexion suddenly sank. He thought Yang Kai's strength was just like that. But after this fight, he realized that Yang Kai's ability was not all that he had seen. "Oh," young sect master responded well. Yang Kai also looked at Feng Shi in surprise, and said with some surprise. If more than 2 years ago, facing such a blow from himself, Feng Shi would definitely be dead, but now he is already in the Emperor Senior realm. It really is different from the past. And Yang Kai also felt that Feng Shi, the Emperor Senior realm, was more powerful than the Chu Zi he beheaded that day. As expected of a disciple who came from a great sect, Chu Zi couldn't match the background and the secret techniques he cultivated. Although Chu Zi is the lord of Tianzhou Palace is only a lower middle sect in the southern region. How can it compare with such a giant as the Wenqing sect? Wen Qingzong had a Wenqing emperor. You actually hid your strength. Feng Shi gritted his teeth and glared at Yang Kai with a displeased expression. There is also some humiliation. Thinking of him as an emperor senior realm, he thought he would be able to kill Yang Kai with a wave of his hand, but in fact he was almost given a negative blow by Yang Kai. How does this not annoy him? Especially when there were two other juniors from the same sect watching him, which immediately made him a little bit embarrassed. Yang Kai curled his lips and said, "Young sect master's words are interesting. You have grown up in this sea of a broken stars. Is it possible that others will stand still?" Feng Shi had been promoted to the Emperor Senior stage in the Broken Star Sea, and his strength had been improved by leaps and bounds, but Yang Kai was not idle either. In the 1.5 years since he conquered Shanzhong, his strength has been greatly improved. Both the source power and consciousness in the body have increased significantly. Very good, no wonder my Lord Father said not to underestimate any opponent, no matter whether his cultivation is high or low. I have seen it today, Yang Kai, you have taught me a lesson. Feng Shi snorted coldly. I wanted to take your life directly, but since you are stubbornly resisting, don't blame me for torturing you. Yang Kai hummed. Young sect master still thinks that he can eat me. Could it be that you think I can't kill you? Feng Shi rolled his eyes, as if hearing a big joke. You can try it. Yang Kai looked at him with a sullen face. As you wish. Feng Shi let out a low voice, and withdrew the long sword in his hand. All of a sudden, he took out another long sword. The long sword was blue all over and exuded an extremely cold aura. As soon as you appeared, white air floated above the sword body, and the surrounding space seemed to be frozen. Emperor treasure. Yang Kai raised his brows, fixed his eyes on the blue long sword, grinned and said, "That's right, the young sect master has an honorable status, and there should always be an emperor treasure beside him." He hadn't seen Feng Shi possessing the emperor treasure before, and he thought it was a bit strange, but he didn't realize until now that Feng Shi did have the emperor treasure, but he didn't use it. Now that he took out the emperor treasure sword, he was undoubtedly going to use all his strength. Happy laughing now, I'll make you cry later. Feng Shi looked at Yang Kai contemptuously, the long sword trembled, and the icy air swept across the four directions instantly, and shouted, Shui Tian Wen Qing Jian. The blossoming sword flowers suddenly bloomed, turned into murderous intent visible to the naked eye, and blasted towards Yang Kai layer by layer. Yang Kai felt cold all over, couldn't help but shivered. Under the communication of space law, the power of space surged up and down, stretched out his hand to grab the front, and shouted, Ning. Hum, a dull sound suddenly came out, and the space where Feng Shi was located, within a radius of 100 feet, suddenly became solidified, extremely sticky. The supreme swordsmanship he displayed was also frozen in the void at this moment. Feng Zai's eyeballs bulged and almost fell to the ground. This. What happened? The yellow-faced young man and Confucian scholars who were watching from a distance were also taken aback, completely unable to understand what happened. They only saw Yang Kai stretch out his hand, and directly suppress the sword technique of their own young sect master. Break! Yang Kai shouted again. Crash la la la. There was a crisp sound, and the sword flowers condensed by Feng Zai's effort and energy burst apart like a mirror being shattered, and the icy breath disappeared in an instant. Not only that, centering on the place where Feng Shi was, one after another of space cracks as small as a cow's hair formed leisurely, innumerable, enveloping him. The space was extremely unstable for a moment, as if it might collapse at any time. As soon as Yang Kai raised his hand, two huge moon blades suddenly appeared on the palm of his hand. He held them up like real objects, looked at Feng Shi with a smile, and said, Young sect master, you are not good at cultivation. The power of space. Even if Feng Shi was stupid, he knew what kind of supernatural power Yang Kai was displaying, and suddenly became flustered and exclaimed. He looked at the countless space cracks around him, and then at the two moon blades in Yang Kai's hand. His face paled instantly. Yang Kai's face turned cold, and said, I have killed more than one in the Emperor Senior realm. If the young sect master thinks that he can do whatever he wants in front of this young master by being promoted to Emperor Senior, then he is very wrong. Since he is wrong, then you have to be taught a lesson. Young master, this young master will discipline you for your father. Do you have any objection? Feng Shi vomited blood in his heart, and was so angry that he wanted to yell a few words, but he didn't know where to start. Yang Kai waved his hand, and the two huge moon blades whizzed towards him. Feng Shi was taken aback, seeing the moon blade getting closer and closer, knowing that Yang Kai was going to take his own life. How could this be discipline? Amidst the horror, his face suddenly became solemn, and as he swung the god's treasure sword in his hand, an indescribable sword intent shot up into the sky. Yang Kai's eyes lit up, although he didn't know what kind of trouble Feng Shi was about to make, but judging by his posture, he seemed unwilling to sit still and wait for death. It's no wonder that he was promoted to the Emperor Senior Realm in the Sea of A Broken Stars with great difficulty. He had a bright future ahead of him, so how could he be willing to suffer death here? The solemn artistic conception permeated, and as Feng Shi slowly swung the long sword, his whole aura changed greatly, as if he had changed into a different person. His eyes were clear, but they were icy cold, heartless and desireless. Ching is ruthless, the way of heaven is ruthless. A low voice sounded. The sword light suddenly brightened, and when the sword energy soared, a mysterious aura spread out. Yang Kai squinted his eyes and was shocked. He didn't expect Feng Shi to be able to unleash such a blow. This blow seemed to be a move that only a real strong man could use, and it coincided with the truth of heaven. If Feng Shi is not dead, there will be great achievements in the future. Yang Kai's face sank slightly, he waved his hand again, and punched forward violently. Exile. A pitch-black black hole suddenly formed in front of Feng Shi, and the breath of nothingness and chaos came from the black hole, which made people feel uneasy. The sword move he used was suddenly disturbed, and slight flaws appeared. The two moon blades finally struck, and the small space cracks around them also attacked Feng Shi under Yang Kai's control. What? There was a scream, and the aura that was as stable as a mountain was disrupted. Feng Zai's figure was suddenly enveloped by the power of space, and streaks of blood shot out, looking extremely terrifying. Young sect master. The yellow-faced young man and the Confucian scholar turned pale with fright and couldn't help shouting. They thought that Feng Zai's dealing with Yang Kai was just a matter of effort, but they didn't expect that Yang Kai, who only had Dao origin, would completely suppress his own young sect master. How could such a thing happen? If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't believe it anyway. It's just that they didn't dare to go to the rescue at this moment, so although they shouted loudly, they just stood still, with erratic eyes, as if they were ready to run away at any time. If the young sect master died here, they would definitely not be able to escape Yang Kai's poisonous hands. After Yang Kai struck, he didn't stop, instead he shook a million swords, and the overwhelming sword light attacked Feng Shi. Chi. Abnormal noises kept ringing, and after all the sword glows disappeared, the void returned to calm. Yang Kai took a breath, but Feng Shi was lying there with a bloody body at the moment, extremely miserable, and he didn't know whether he was dead or alive. Gudong. Both the yellow-faced man and the Confucian scholar swallowed their saliva, and their faces were extremely pale. They both stared blankly at Feng Shi over there. When they glanced over with their spiritual thoughts, they found that Feng Shi was actually short of breath. Obviously, he had encountered an unimaginable hit hard. To be continued. Chapter 2467 Soul Drop. Escape. Run away quickly. If you don't run away, I'm afraid it will be too late. Just when the yellow-faced young man and the middle-aged Confucian scholar thought about it, Yang Kai suddenly turned his head and looked at them with cold eyes. Both of them sucked in a breath of cold air. Under Yang Kai's cold gaze, their calves were weak, and they couldn't lift the slightest strength. Are you coming here to die by yourself, or am I going to hack you to death? Yang Kai stood with a sword in his hand, his figure was calm and his clothes were neat, as if the previous battle hadn't consumed him at all. As a result, it was as if Feng Shi was in the Dao origin realm, and he was in the High Emperor Senior realm. The expected situation was completely reversed, which was simply unacceptable. Monster. The yellow-faced young man and the middle-aged Confucian scholar collided violently with their upper and lower rows of teeth, making a cracking sound, unable to utter a word in horror. It seems that you are choosing the latter. Yang Kai snorted coldly, and moved towards the two of them. The breathing of the yellow-faced young man and the middle-aged Confucian scholar suddenly stagnated, and they wanted to escape from this moment, but their bodies were completely out of control, and a desperate emotion instantly overwhelmed them. But the next moment, Yang Kai suddenly frowned and turned to look aside. What he saw, Yang Kai's eyeballs suddenly widened. Because Feng Shi, who was supposed to be lying on the ground waiting to die, stood up slowly at this moment, but his state seemed extremely strange, as if he didn't have his own consciousness, his eyes were closed, his body was stiff, like a puppet lifted by someone. On the contrary, the source power in his body was tumbling, Not only that, but there was also an aura that made Yang Kai feel dreadful and horrified, slowly waking up from Feng Zai's body. Soon, Feng Shi stood up straight again, and suddenly opened his closed eyes. In those eyes, there was a piercing coldness, but there was a shining divine light, as bright as stars. Yang Kai was taken aback. The moment Feng Shi opened his eyes, the strange aura in his body suddenly climbed to the extreme, and the strong power of Emperor Wei suddenly filled the air, making Yang Kai take a breath, and the blood in his body seemed to stop flowing. What the hell? Yang Kai frowned and let out a low cry. Feng Shi at this moment gave him an extremely dangerous feeling. Meeting his eyes, Yang Kai had the illusion of being stared at by a beast, very uncomfortable. However, Feng Zai's whole person has undergone earth-shaking changes. He has changed his previous image of the sect's young master, and he has a graceful and noble temperament. His eyes are contemptuous, as if he wants to rule the world. Yang Kai's heart skipped a beat. This feeling made him a little familiar. He had experienced similar feelings from Yao Changjun, Kai Sun and Bing Yun, who were strong third-layer emperors. But Feng Shi has just been promoted to Emperor Senior Realm not long ago. How can he compare with these three top powerhouses? Could it be the secret art of asking love sect? Yang Kai was suspicious in his heart, but suddenly swung his hand. The two moon blades showed a cross shape, spun towards Feng Shi, and arrived in front of Feng Shi in an instant, sealing off all his escape routes. Feng Shi looked at the two moon blades in the shape of a cross. A flash of amazement flashed in his eyes, as if he saw Yang Kai using space magic for the first time. There was a calmness and oldness on his face that didn't match his age, and he didn't dodge at meaning but slowly stretched out a finger forward. That point pointed out that it happened to be at the center of the cross, not bad at all. However, under the power of this finger, the two moon blades exploded apart without causing any damage to Feng Shi. What? Yang Kai was really horrified at this moment. Naturally, he knew better than anyone else the weakness of the secret technique he had used. Although it was the first time he used the crossed moon blade, it was still in his mind. It has been simulated countless times, so it is quite handy to use. And the weakness of this secret technique is exactly where Feng Zai's fingers pointed. How did he figure it out? Yang Kai's complexion suddenly became cloudy and uncertain. If Feng Shi had such vision and ability, he wouldn't have been beaten so badly by himself just now. It seems that in the short period of time from his coma to waking up, something shocking has happened to him. Who is your excellency? Yang Kai suddenly remembered a legendary secret technique. His heart was shocked, and he asked in a low voice. Feng Shi looked at Yang Kai coldly, raised the corner of his mouth, and said, "The younger generation is really amazing. The old man thought you were extraordinary that day, now it seems that the old man has a good vision." Hiss. Yang Kai took a breath and couldn't help but take a few steps back. Feng Shi suddenly talked to himself in this tone of relying on the old and selling the old, which made Yang Kai further confirm the guess in his heart. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and lost his voice. "Hun Zhang. You are Feng Zan." He has long heard that in order to protect his favored heirs or disciples, some top powerhouses will leave a trace of soul power in the body of the heirs or disciples, which will not be triggered in normal times, but when there is a life crisis, this power will be activated. Will burst out and fight the enemy. But this kind of secret technique requires a lot of price, and once it is used, the damage to the heir or disciple is not small, so very few strong people will do it. Even if they do it, it is not a last resort, this power will not be revealed. But now, the power in Feng Zai's body has shown up, which undoubtedly shows that Feng Shi has just reached the point where his oil is running out. The kid has good knowledge. It's me. Feng Shi snorted. What? Metropolitan? The yellow-faced man and the middle-aged Confucian scholar were also taken aback, but soon, they became ecstatic, rushed to Feng Zai's side and knelt down, tremblingly said, "The disciple sees the suzerain." Feng Shi glanced at the two of them indifferently, and snorted coldly, "You two trash, even the young sect master can't protect you well, and forced me to show up in person, what use are you for?" The expressions of the two of them changed wildly, but they didn't dare to make a sound. The pain in their hearts was almost overwhelmed by eating coptis chinensis. Both of them were thinking, the young sect master is already in the Emperor Senior stage, much stronger than us, but he was still seriously injured and unconscious by this Yang Kai's 3 or 2 moves. What can he do with his own cultivation level? It is nothing more than being wiped out by others. Just kill. Although they were slandering in their hearts, the two of them didn't dare to speak out, they just lowered their heads, with cold sweat dripping from their foreheads. Feng Shi hummed, "I will take the young suzerain to find a safe place to heal his wounds later. If you can't take the young suzerain back to the sect intact, you don't have to come back." Since these two were able to enter the sea of a broken stars, they were undoubtedly elite disciples of the Netherworld sect, but in Feng Zan's eyes, the value of the two of them might not be as valuable as a single hair of his son. And hearing Feng Zan's tone of voice, it was obvious that Yang Kai could be dealt with soon, so they asked them to take Feng Shi to find a place to heal his injuries later. The two of them seemed to be pardoned, and said quickly, "Yes." Feng Shi turned his head, looked at Yang Kai again, and snorted coldly, "Junior, is the wound on Zaire your masterpiece?" Yang Kai said with a dark face, "I said no, do you believe it?" Feng Shi said, "What do you think?" Yang Kai said angrily, "Then you ask a fart." Feng Zai's face darkened, and he said, "Your junior is so arrogant, how dare you yell at me? I wanted to give you a good time. Since you are so arrogant, then don't blame me for being rude to you." Yang Kai smiled sarcastically, and said, Feng Shi also meant the same thing before, but he was beaten very badly by this young master. Feng Sect Master, be careful to follow in your son's footsteps. Feng Shi said in a deep voice, "How dare you look down on me?" Yang Kai lazily said, "If Sect Master Feng comes here in person, the boy is naturally not an opponent. I promise to get out immediately and run as far as I can." It's a pity, it's a pity. Sect Master Feng, you use the body of your son to surrender, how much strength can you display? €1. It's enough to kill you. Yang Kai laughed loudly, "If you want to go your own way, Sect Master Feng, be careful not to be late." "Stop making noise," Feng Shi yelled angrily. "I'm going to kill you right now, just ask for love." While speaking, he pointed at the place where Yang Kai was located. An unimaginable force suddenly blasted over, invisible and invisible, as if it wanted to tear the void apart, pointing at where the wind passed, the void collapsed layer by layer, extremely terrifying. Although the power of this finger is not comparable to the Emperor Ju pill that Feng Shi used before, it is not much worse. The reason why he can't compare is not because Feng Zan's strength has declined over the years. When he condensed that Emperor Ju pill, Feng Zan had just been promoted to the 3rd level of Emperor Senior. After so many years, his cultivation must have improved a lot. If he really wants to use this secret technique by himself, the power will only be greater. But now that he is in the body of a descended soul, the strength he can display depends entirely on what limit Feng Zai's body can bear. So the power of this question will naturally be greatly reduced. Even so, it is not something that Yang Kai can take over. When his body was swaying, he hurriedly wanted to avoid it, but the power of this finger had the effect of sealing space and suppressing the world. When Yang Kai stagnated, he was swept by the finger wind. As if being hit by a big mountain, Yang Kai let out a muffled snort, spewed blood, and flew out. The bones on his body cracked, and he didn't know how many were broken, and the body that was rubbed was a bloody mess. With just one move, Yang Kai was seriously injured, which shows Feng Zan's astonishing strength. Before he regained his footing, Feng Shi swept his sword over there again, and shouted, "Ching Ching sword." With a distance of hundreds of feet, that sword-like glow appeared in a fan shape, blasting towards Yang Kai in an instant. Yang Kai was unable to avoid it all at once. The yellow-faced young man and the middle-aged Confucian scholar couldn't help but rejoice in their hearts, feeling inspired by the strength of their suzerain. No matter how powerful Yang Kai was, in front of the suzerain's soul-descended body, he was still as unbearable as paper. Hit. And after the sword blasted out, Feng Zai's aura also dropped a lot. It seemed that these two moves had consumed him so much that he was slightly out of breath. But this is enough. Feng Zan believes that with Yang Kai's strength, he can't take this move, and he will be torn to pieces by the sword light in the next moment. He stood with his sword in his hand, looking forward coldly, waiting for the moment of Yang Kai's death. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn Update Group at AOI paragraph mark S. A cent per mil. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is the author's greatest motivation. Chapter 2468 Mountain River Bell Suppression. But at this moment, Feng Zan's heart skipped a beat, and a feeling of uneasiness suddenly emerged. This is an intuition. The higher the cultivation base, the more accurate it is. He stared at Yang Kai with wide eyes, only to see that Yang Kai's expression suddenly turned serious. His hands quickly pinched the strange seal, and an indescribable artistic conception lingered. The profound and mysterious artistic conception made Feng Zan. They were all moved by it, and some couldn't help but want to immerse themselves in it and study it well. What kind of secret technique is this? Feng Zan's face instantly became suspicious. Although he instinctively felt that something was wrong, he still couldn't restrain his desire. He stared wide-eyed, wanting to see clearly. In the blink of an eye, Yang Kai's seal was completed, and the mysterious mark was suspended in front of him, and was slapped out by him. The years are dry and prosperous, like a shuttle, like a dream. Yang Kai's deep voice sounded like the ecstasy from purgatory, in Feng Zai's ears. Feng Zai's face changed drastically, and he said in amazement, "The supernatural power of Emperor Sui Yu, time is like a shuttle stamp." Unlike ordinary warriors, Feng Zan is a strong emperor, senior 3-layer, and even the suzerain of Wenqing sect, a descendant of Wenqing Great Emperor. Therefore, his knowledge and experience are extremely profound, and as soon as Yang Kai's move came out, he recognized that it was the magical secret technique of the famous Emperor Sui Yu back then. His heart was beating wildly, his face was horrified, but his eyes were extremely excited. Emperor Sui Yu, it is rumored that he is the only emperor who has understood the law of time. Looking at the star realm for hundreds of millions of years, he is the only one with no semicolon. Throughout the ages, countless strong men wanted to comprehend the law of time, but they couldn't even enter the threshold, which shows how strange and mysterious this law is. Feng Zan originally thought that with the fall of Emperor Sui Yu, no one in this world would be able to comprehend the law of time. But now, he actually saw Emperor Sui Yu's unique magical power from Yang Kai. Doesn't this mean that Yang Kai got the inheritance of Emperor Sui Yu? Otherwise, how could he release the imprint of time? For a moment, Feng Zan was filled with envy and jealousy, as well as a little bit of shock. His mood was extremely complicated. As soon as the time passed by, Feng Zan knew that he had underestimated Yang Kai's strength, and under the influence of that strange law power, he felt that everything around him slowed down. He knew that this was his illusion, the incorrect feeling he had under the influence of the law of time. Shocked, he held the long sword in his hand, and the source of energy in his body was ancient, and the sword energy was bursting from the blue long sword. Qing is ruthless, the way of heaven is ruthless, and the way of heaven is ruthless. The same secret technique, the same body is used, but the power is not the same. When Feng Shi used this secret technique before, he was dizzy and turned unconscious by Yang Kai's space magic, but at this moment Feng Zan, who was descended from the soul, performed it, but it was shocking and weeping ghosts and gods. The ruthless and desireless slash came across, and collided with the years that passed through the barrier of time like shuttle marks. The power of two completely different laws collided with each other, causing the void to collapse and the world to shatter. There was a rumbling sound, and the aftermath of the impact exploded, sweeping in all directions. Whether it's Yang Kai or Feng Shi, they are like a canoe sailing in the sea when the wind is raging, the body is swaying, and it seems that it may be overturned at any time. And the yellow-faced young man and middle-aged Confucian scholar who were watching not far away were miserable. Under the erosion of the power of the two laws, the eyes of the two were dull, as if they were absent-minded, but their skins quickly appeared wrinkled, hair also turned gray. The power of time passed on the two of them in an instant, turning them into octogenarians in a very short period of time. Boom boom boom. The loud noise continued, and Yang Kai suddenly flew upside down. This time, he was actually at a disadvantage. It's not that Emperor Sui Yu's supernatural power is not as good as Wenqing sect's secret technique, it's just that Yang Kai's strength is not as good as Feng Zan's. Seeing this, Feng Zan's eyes shrank, his face was ruthless, and when his body shook, he urged the remaining strength in his body to kill the killer. Although he really wanted to capture Yang Kai alive and inquire about the inheritance and secret techniques of the great Emperor of Time, but at this moment Feng Zai's physical condition did not allow him to do so. After the soul descended, the damage to Feng Shi was extremely great. He had no choice but to use Wudao and Ruthless Slash to the limit. If he continued to entangle with Yang Kai, there was no need to suffer any more harm. Feng Zai's body would fall apart by itself. He felt annoyed for a while. In Binglan City that day, if he had disregarded his face and reckless the consequences to attack Yang Kai, he might not have such troubles like today, and he might still be able to capture Yang Kai. When the time comes, the inheritance of Emperor Sui Yu would be his Feng Zan. At that time, he will be sitting on the inheritance of the two great emperors alone, and he will be crowned the overlord of the northern territory just around the corner. Since you are ruthless, how can you ask for love? Since you have no way, how can you pursue martial arts? When Yang Kai suddenly retreated, he suddenly shouted, his face grim, "You are deceiving yourself and others by asking about love, ha 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 ha." He suddenly laughed wildly. Feng Zan said angrily, "The junior has little knowledge, what do you know? Hurry up and die." When the words fell, a sword fell towards Yang Kai. Yang Kai said angrily, "If you want to kill this young master, you are not qualified enough, Shanhezhong, give it to me." With a wave of his hand, a palm-sized bell-shaped secret treasure suddenly flew out, and it was the Shan bell that he had conquered not long ago. Even the time is like a shuttle seal, Feng Zan can't do anything. Yang Kai now only has the trump card of the mountain and river clock. If even the mountain and river clock can't suppress Feng Zan, then Yang Kai can only run away immediately. He believed that even though he was seriously injured now, with the space secret technique he mastered, it would still be difficult for Feng Zan to kill him. As soon as the mountain and river clock came out, Yang Kai immediately felt the source power in his body and the soul power in the sea of a consciousness flow like a river breaking its embankment, and it dried up in the blink of an eye. Yang Kai was startled, his face paled instantly, and his headache was about to split. This was the first time he used the mountain and river clock, and he never expected to pay such a high price. In the past, his cultivation was not enough, and when he used the Nirvana Thunder Bead, he also had a similar experience, but compared with the feeling at this moment, that kind of experience is simply nothing. Yang Kai obviously had a feeling of dying at this time. As soon as this prehistoric treasure came out, it didn't hurt the enemy, but it made him unable to take care of himself, and he didn't know what the result would be. He braced himself up and stared at Feng Shi. However, Feng Zai's face changed drastically, and he exclaimed in surprise, "Shan Bell! The secret treasure of Yuanding Emperor's life!" He was simply astonished. When Yang Kai used the space secret technique, he was already amazing enough. After all, not everyone can comprehend and practice the space secret technique. Afterwards, Yang Kai displayed the supernatural power of Emperor Sui Yu, and Feng Zan couldn't even imagine what kind of chance Yang Kai had to get something that countless powerhouses could never get in their lifetime. At this moment, Yang Kai even sacrificed Yuanding Great Emperor's natal secret treasure. Feng Zan almost bit off his own tongue. "Fake, this is fake!" Feng Zan screamed wildly in his heart, but when he looked at it with fixed eyes, the mountain and river clock grew bigger rapidly, and a bell rang, which was transmitted to the depths of the soul, making people throbbing and uneasy. The complex pictures and texts on the surface of the clock were faintly visible, flowing endlessly. A breath from the prehistoric filled the air, making his breathing difficult. It was a real mountain and river clock. The breath of prehistoric power cannot be imitated at will. Feng Zan's face was instantly pale as paper. Without even thinking about it, he turned around and wanted to flee from here. But a magical power suppressed the whole world, and the space was blocked, so he couldn't move, and the power in his body was blocked in the meridians, unable to operate. Mountain and river clock, the bell rings to town the mountains and rivers, and the emperor's rhyme turns the universe. When the bell rings, it is the time of suppression, and no one can escape. Even a person like Yang Kai who is proficient in space power, once locked by the mountain and river clock, there is no way to escape, let alone Feng Zan. If not, it wouldn't be able to suppress the phoenix true fire for tens of thousands of years. Seeing the mountain and river clock cover him, Feng Zan felt his soul tremble, and shouted in horror, "Stop it, Junior, if you dare to kill me, I will chase you to the ends of the earth and tear you to pieces. Part. Go to your mother." Yang Kai spat out a mouthful of blood and cursed angrily. Boom, a euro. Without any suspense, Feng Zai's body was directly suppressed by Shan Zhang, and he disappeared completely. What a euro. The yellow-faced young man and the middle-aged Confucian scholar stood there tremblingly, their eyes almost falling out of shock. Yang Kai's Tao origin realm actually suppressed his suzerain's soul-descending body. Is this something that Dao Yuanjing can do? Both of them felt chills in their hearts, and a chill ran down their spines from head to toe. Young sect master, is he dead? The yellow-faced young man opened his mouth, his teeth fell down, and he couldn't even speak clearly. The same is true for the middle-aged Confucian scholar. Although the two of them were not hit head-on by the stamp of time, they were affected by the law of time, and their bodies were no longer in their prime at this moment. Ahem. Yang Kai coughed continuously, looking extremely miserable. He moved his fingers slightly, and flicked his energy on the mountain clock. Boom, a euro. The bell rang again, and the huge impact spread in all directions. Don't! The yellow-faced young man and the middle-aged Confucian scholar shouted one after another, wanting to escape from this moment, but the sound wave directly drowned them both, and both of them vomited blood. The blood was mixed with pieces of internal organs. No breath. As soon as Yang Kai stretched out his hand, the enlarged mountain and river clock flew back towards his hand, halfway back to the size of a palm again. But at the place where Shanzhong was originally suppressed, Fengshi had already turned into a pool of flesh and blood, and his death was extremely miserable. 3 star seals with different rays of light shot up from the bodies of the 3 of them, and landed on the back of Yang Kai's hand one after another. These 3 star seals are all extremely high grades. Feng Zai's one is a heptagram star seal, and the other 2 are hexagram star seals. With such a star seal, Yang Kai's star seal has taken a big step forward. But Yang Kai is not in the mood to take care of these at the moment. He doesn't even have the strength to put away the space rings of the 3 of them, and the sequelae of sacrificing the mountain and river clock swept over him, making people weak, and his eyes went dark, just like that passed out. To be continued. This text is provided by the Dawn Update group at YC. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2469 Origin C. Phone reading. North Territory, asked Qingzong. Skeptical smiley-faced Shin. As one of the top sects in the Northern Territory, the Wenqing sect covers a vast area with countless disciples. The buildings in the entire area are magnificent and extraordinary, and the aura of heaven and earth is also extremely strong. In an inconspicuous building, suddenly there was a roaring sound that shook the sky. In an instant, the entire Wenqing sect seemed to be trembling. Countless disciples looked towards the source of the sound, their eyes horrified. Because everyone could recognize that this was the voice of the suzerain, but no one knew why the suzerain suddenly became so angry. Feng Zan is already a strong person at the 3rd level of Emperor Senior, his mood is like water, and the ancient well is calm. If he hadn't encountered something that made him unacceptable, it would be impossible for him to have such a big mood swing. And what could make an emperor at the 3rd level so angry? At this moment, a person with a pale face hurriedly rushed into the building, pushed open the door, knelt down tremblingly, and said, "Sect Master, something is wrong. This subordinate has just received a summons." The soul of the young Sect Master Lampa euro. Before the man finished speaking, Feng Zan suddenly slapped him. Although this person has a powerful cultivation of the 3rd level of Daoyuan, how can he resist in front of a strong person like Feng Zan? With one palm, he was directly patted into a meatloaf. Yang Kai. In the secret room, Feng Zan's face was pale, and he shouted out a person's name violently, his eyes flashed with raging anger. His soul descended on Feng Shi, so even though people were asking about the emotion sect, they could somewhat feel what happened in the sea of a broken stars. Although it was not comprehensive, Feng Zai's death was clearly felt. My own son was finally promoted to the Emperor Senior realm in the sea of a broken stars, but was killed by a person at the 3rd level of Daoyuan, and on the premise that his own soul had descended. This was simply nothing to him and Wen Qingzong. What a shame. If it wasn't for him not being able to enter the broken star sea, I'm afraid he would have to set off to find Yang Kai to settle accounts now. The revenge of killing a son is irreconcilable. Feng Zan's heart was full of anger. Suddenly got up, turned into a stream of light, escaped from the school of inquiring emotions, and galloped towards a certain direction. Look at the direction he is going. It seems to be the location of Bingxin Valley. He can't look for Yang Kai now, he can only go to Bingxin Valley to find Bingyan first. No matter what, Yang Kai must die, and only by finding Bingyan can he find out about Yang Kai's news and whereabouts. Feng Zai's death made him completely furious. He no longer cares about the dispute between the 2 factions. If Bingyan can't give him a reasonable explanation, he will definitely wash Bingxin Valley with blood. In the groggy state, Yang Kai felt someone calling him. He struggled for a long time, then suddenly opened his eyes and regained his consciousness. "You're awake," a voice suddenly sounded beside my ears. As soon as Yang Kai moved his head, he knew that it was not someone else calling him, but the Dharma body. There has always been a spiritual connection between him and the Dharma body, so even though they are separated by the mysterious small world, Dharmakaya can also contact him at any time. Yang Kai suddenly passed out before, and the Dharma body did not dare to pull him close to the mysterious small boundary to heal his wounds. Although it is indeed possible to do so, if it is really done, the mysterious boundary orb will be exposed in the void. There are countless strong people in the sea of a broken stars. If someone sees the mysterious boundary orb, it will definitely be another troublesome matter. Therefore, the Dharma body can only let Yang Kai think about floating in the void, calling him constantly. How long has it been? Yang Kai communicated with Dharma body's spiritual mind, and barely supported himself. Not long, just a few hours. It's okay. Yang Kai let out a sigh of relief. Examining his current condition, he found that his injuries were not too serious, but he was swept by Feng Zan's finger, and his back was a bit bloody. The biggest problem right now is that he's weak. Using the mountain and river clock consumed all his strength, making it impossible for him to fully recover within these few hours. Even at this moment, even if he moved his divine sense, he would feel pain in his head. If he encountered any danger at this time, then he could only hide in the mysterious boundary bead for the first time. He thought about it. He sacrificed his own wooden boat, let it gallop forward, and then sat cross-legged on the wooden boat, took out some recovery elixir and stuffed it in his mouth, closed his eyes and adjusted his breath. In the ancient and desolate sea of a fragmented stars, Yang Kai's figure was like a speck of dust, unremarkable, drifting away without any particular goal. 2 days later, he exhaled lightly, stood up again, and there were crackling sounds from all over his body. Although he hasn't fully recovered yet, his body is fine. He raised his eyes and looked around, but there was nothing special, even his 7-pointed star seal did not sense the existence of other people. It has been 2 or 3 years since he entered this sea of a broken stars. Before that, he thought that he had achieved a good harvest, but after meeting the people from Bingxin Valley and Fengxi, he realized that he was a bit behind. Even Fengxi had been promoted to Emperor Senior Realm early, and Ziyu was at the critical juncture of breakthrough. Maybe he had successfully broken through and promoted to the throne at this time, but he hadn't sensed the aura of breakthrough yet. The Phoenix Real Fire and the Mountain and River Clock are indeed very good. After all, they were once owned by the Emperor. However, the strength of a warrior has always been based on his own strength, and the help of other external objects is just icing on the cake. Without strong strength as a guarantee, even if he had the best treasure in his hands, it would be difficult to play any role. Yang Kai felt that if he was also in the Emperor's senior stage now, he would not be so embarrassed when he used the mountain and river bell before. Ziyu and Fengxi are already ahead of themselves. What about the other favored sons of the sect? What about the up-and-comers I know? Yang Kai suddenly felt an urgent sense of crisis. If one's cultivation falls behind others, then one is really behind. No matter how many good things one finds in this sea of a broken stars, it won't help. As he thought about it, he drove the wooden boat quickly, trying to find his own opportunity in this sea of a broken stars. For several days in a row, Yang Kai didn't meet anyone, and didn't feel the breath of the original power, which made him a little strange, because this phenomenon was very abnormal, and he stayed in the broken star sea for a while. Yes, nothing like this has ever happened. A few days later, Yang Kai still had no reaction. This made him unavoidably suspicious, not knowing what had happened in the sea of a broken stars. It wasn't until the 10th day that Yang Kai suddenly felt a slight heat on the back of his hand. This lifted his spirits, and he immediately realized that he had sensed the existence of the warrior, and then, the warm feeling on the back of his hand became stronger and stronger. Yang Kai raised his brows and hurried towards that direction. As the distance approached, Yang Kai was in a state of surprise, because he sensed the aura of many warriors. There seemed to be not only the aura of warriors but also an extremely strong original aura. They all resonated with the star seal on the back of the hand. What's going on over there? He became curious, and his speed increased a lot. Half a day later, Yang Kai was slightly stunned by the scene that caught his eyes. Because in the starry sky, thousands of miles in front of him, lay a large halo of faint blue light, showing an irregular oval shape, and at first glance, it looked like a vast ocean. Although it seems that this vast ocean is not too big now, Yang Kai knows that this is because he is too far away from it. If he is really in it, he will definitely feel its magnificence. What the hell? Yang Kai muttered inwardly. After a few more hours, Yang Kai had already flown to this weird place. After seeing the situation over there, Yang Kai sucked in a breath of cold air, and lost his voice. So much original power. He clearly felt the strong aura of the original power from the faint blue halo, and those broken origins were hidden in the faint blue light, like fish hiding in seawater. But at this moment, looking closer, this place is like a real vast ocean, with no end in sight at a glance. The blue waves are blue, and the light is surging like seawater, which looks extremely strange. Through the star seal on the back of his hand, Yang Kai clearly felt the countless warriors scattered in this huge blue light, and he didn't know if he was absorbing the origin of refining. It's just, how could there be so much original power here? With so many origins, if one person refines and absorbs them, how much benefit will they get? Yang Kai didn't dare to think about it anymore. But this is basically impossible, and no warrior has the ability to refine all these sources. No wonder I walked this way for more than 10 days, and I didn't meet a single person, and I didn't sense any original aura. It turned out that they all gathered in this place. Yang Kai was excited for a while, although he really wanted to snatch the original power in front of him now, but he still carefully checked the situation of the blue light. To his surprise, the release of divine thoughts was not hindered in any way, nor was he aware of the slightest danger, as if the faint blue light was just a sea-like existence, a carrier of the rich original power. Yang Kai looked happy, and then he rushed forward and plunged into the light. Ha ha ha, another fool. There was a burst of ridicule not far away. This person had obviously been observing Yang Kai, and laughed when he saw him rushing into the faint blue light. Sarcasm, dare to be reckless in the original sea, I really don't know how to write the word, death. As soon as his voice fell, a figure suddenly shot out from where Yang Kai rushed in. This person took a closer look, whoever it was if it wasn't Yang Kai. His eyes widened all of a sudden, and he said in horror, how is it possible? He's still alive. At this moment, Yang Kai grinned his teeth, felt pain all over his body, and there were chi-chi-chi-chi sounds from all over his body. His clothes were corroded in a very short period of time, revealing his strong body. And the skin, as if scalded by scalding hot water, suddenly formed countless pustules, bloody, looking extremely terrifying. However, although his appearance was miserable, Yang Kai didn't have any worries about his life. He encouraged the source power in his body to drive away the corrosive power that had invaded his body. To be continued. XH 211. Chapter 2470. After a long time, Yang Kai breathed out slowly, took out a new set of clothes and put them on his body, and the corroded wounds on his body surface recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the blood coffee fell off quickly, revealing a brand new skin. Gudong. The onlooker couldn't help swallowing, with a look of shock on his face. Yang Kai turned his head, looked towards that person, and immediately swayed in front of him. This person has a cultivation level of the second level of Daoyuan. In the entire sea of A broken stars, this kind of cultivation level is neither high nor low. It belongs to the lower middle. The look of good stuff. Seeing Yang Kai rushing in front of him, he was startled, quickly took 2 steps back, and said in amazement, "You, what are you going to do?" Yang Kai looked at him unhappily, and snorted coldly, "I just heard you say that this is the origin sea." Yes, this is Yuan sea. The man's tongue seemed to be a little knotted, and he replied incessantly. "What is Yuan? Tell me clearly." The man looked bitter, and said, "The original sea is the original sea. There is a lot of original power gathered here, and this place looks like an ocean, so everyone calls it the original sea, and there is no special term." Quote, "How did you find this place? Why are there so many people here?" Yang Kai looked at him coldly. "I came with my senior brother from the same sect, and my senior brother was called by others, this friend, what do you want to ask?" This person seemed to have settled down, seeing that Yang Kai didn't have too much malice, he was curious, looked at him and asked. "Tell me about the situation of the origin sea, and tell me everything you know." The man suddenly asked suspiciously, "Haven't my friend heard of Benyuan?" Yang Kai slapped it, and said angrily, "If I have heard of it, I still need to ask you." This person shrank his head from being beaten, and was annoyed in his heart, but he didn't dare to show the slightest bit, and said in surprise, "No way, my friend's cultivation base is not weak, how come I haven't heard of Yuan sea? This place should be listed in the classics of all sects. Ida Euros all on record. A Euro. There are records." Yang Kai raised his eyebrows. "Yes, the Sea of A Euro origin is a very famous place in the Sea of A Euro broken stars, because there is a lot of power of origin here, we can absorb and refine it here, as long as we find it here, we don't have to look for the origin of those broken stars." "Yes, but the Sea of A Euro origin doesn't appear every time, its time and location are not fixed, but when the Sea of A Euro fragmented stars is opened 3 times, the Sea of A Euro origin will always appear once, this is a blessed place for our warriors to practice." A Euro. There is only the original power here. Then what is the blue halo here, why is there such a strong corrosive power? Yang Kai asked in a deep voice. He just suffered from the blue halo, it looks like there is no danger at all in the seawater and spiritual sense investigation, but after plunging into it, one can feel extremely strong corrosive force. If Yang Kai hadn't retreated quickly, he would have suffered more serious injuries. No one can say exactly what this faint blue halo is. It has existed since the first appearance of the origin sea, but this thing is very dangerous. Anyone who rushes into it will undoubtedly die. Speaking of this, he suddenly remembered, didn't Yang Kai not die? Immediately smiled awkwardly, and said, my friend is amazing, he was able to withdraw from there. It's thanks to you. Yang Kai laughed angrily. This guy was watching from a short distance just now, and he didn't remind him when he saw himself rushing in. Although he really didn't have friendship with him, it was too wicked to just sit back and watch. If other martial artists with slightly weaker strength rushed in rashly, how could there be any life left? But it's no wonder others have the right to stand on the sidelines. This person also heard that Yang Kai was blaming himself, and couldn't help but smile. Keep talking, Yang Kai snorted. The man quickly cleared his throat, and said, the benefits that can be obtained in the Sea of A origin are great. Many people will stay here to absorb the origin of refining and refining when they find this place, until the Sea of A broken stars is closed. Friends, you have also seen this. The Sea of A origin is vast, just like a real sea, so no matter how many people come here, it is impossible to refine the power of the source. And, let me tell you secretly, there is not only broken power of the source in this Sea of A origin, and even some people have found the complete origin of the stars and the origin of the 5 elements. The complete origin. Yang Kai's expression changed. He is a star master himself, so he can naturally understand the huge gap between the power of the broken source and the complete source. The complete source can allow warriors to easily sense the way of heaven and martial arts, but the effect of the broken source is greatly reduced. He also didn't expect that there is a complete source of power in this source sea, and not only the source of the stars, but also the source of the 5 elements. Although the phoenix true fire he obtained earlier is also the source of the fire element, it is the source of the Holy Spirit, not the source of the 5 elements, and there is still a difference between the two. The reason why his mysterious boundary orb can't allow people to advance to the great realm in it is because the laws of heaven and earth are incomplete, and to complete the laws of heaven and earth, a complete source of power is essential. If you can find the complete original power here and fill it into the mysterious Shaoji, maybe the laws of heaven and earth in the mysterious Shaoji will become complete. If you want to be promoted later, you can do it in the mysterious Shaoji without worrying about being disturbed by others up. So after hearing that there is a complete source in the source sea, Yang Kai was immediately moved. But soon, he sullenly said, this Sea of A origin is so dangerous, how can we safely absorb the power of refining origin in it? Are you lying to me? How dare I? The man shouted with a look of grievance on his face, my friend, you haven't entered the Sea of A origin, so you don't know what's going on inside. In the Sea of A origin, there are many small islands that can where people live. There is no need to worry about being corroded by the corrosive power of the original sea, and you can refine the original power with peace of mind. Oh, there is such a good place. Yang Kai's eyes lit up. He just rushed into the origin sea just now, but he really didn't go deep into the interior, so he didn't find any island-like existence. But judging by the way this man spoke, it didn't seem like he was lying to himself. My friend, you will know when you fly over from above and take a look, but you can't rush into that thing that looks like seawater. The man seemed to remind him kindly, and looked at Yang Kai flatteringly after speaking, I've said everything I need to say, look. HMPH. Yang Kai said with a straight face, since the origin sea has so many benefits, why do you still stay here but not enter? Is there any other danger? The man hurriedly said, I'm staying here to wait for other senior brothers of the same sect. The senior brother ordered me to stay here. Otherwise, do you think I would like to stay here? I also want to go in and absorb the essence of refining. Strength. With an aggrieved expression on his face, he probably scolded his senior brother in his heart. Yang Kai nodded, turned around, and flew over the origin sea. The man's voice came from behind, saying, be careful, there are several Emperor senior realms in Yuan Sea, and no one can save you if you provoke them. Yang Kai's heart sank when he heard this, and he found that things were exactly as he thought. Many people had been promoted to the Emperor senior stage in the Broken Star Sea, and Ziyu and Fengshi were not the only ones. This is only the situation in the original sea, and there are other strong people scattered all over the Sea of A Broken Stars. Perhaps, there are not a few people who have been promoted to Emperor senior realm. Sea of A Broken Stars is indeed an incredible secret realm. Yang Kai was in a serious mood, and flew over the origin sea, looking down, suddenly felt a wonderful sense of dislocation. Now I seem to be flying over a vast ocean, with blue waves and blue waves underneath, and the tide is surging, and above this ocean, there are indeed some island-like existences, of different sizes, and the small ones can only stand on 1 people, the big ones can only stand 4 or 5 people. These places to stay have already been occupied by warriors, sitting there cross-legged, absorbing and refining the original power that escaped from the sea water. On the surface of the sea, the tide is surging, sometimes tossing and rushing, sometimes calm and unpredictable. In such a situation, warriors cannot stably refine their origin above the sea. It looks like you have to find a place to stay first. Yang Kai had suffered from this seawater before, so he knew how powerful it was. If he couldn't find a place to stay, he wouldn't be able to refine the origin with peace of mind. Thinking of this, he glanced down, trying to find a suitable position. There are quite a few warriors like him who are looking for a place to stay, and they are all flying in the air, but everyone has no intention of attacking each other. The original power here is so strong, as long as they can absorb it safely, they will definitely get huge benefits. There's no point in fighting here, unless it's for territory. There were indeed people vying for territory. When Yang Kai flew through the air, he saw at least a dozen waves of people fighting each other. Corpses of warriors kept falling from midair. Once they fell into the sea of a euro origin, there was not even a single wave coming out. There was no sound. After wandering around the origin sea for an hour, Yang Kai couldn't find a place to stay, and all the places were occupied by people. This made him very helpless. His character is not the kind of person who likes to snatch other people's territory for no reason, so he can only search patiently. Fortunately, the original sea is big enough, and there are still some places he hasn't looked for. He believed he should be able to find a good place. In the distance ahead, there was another group of people fighting for territory. The sky was dark and the energy was surging. Yang Kai originally wanted to go around the battlefield, but at this moment, a low groan suddenly entered his ears. Earth sword, meteor thunder. There was a sound, and a crackling sound came out at the same time. In the air over there, a blue lightning suddenly pierced the sky and shot towards a certain place. His expression changed, and he quickly looked over there. To be continued. This text is provided by the Dawn Update group at YC. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2471 I am from the Palace of Hades. Earth Sword Meteor Thunder is a secret technique, and it is a secret technique owned by someone Yang Kai knows. This secret technique is divided into 3 moves: Human Sword Spinning, Earth Sword Falling Thunder, Heavenly Sword Breaking Stars. One move is stronger than the other, and the combination of 3 moves is even more powerful. And the one who practiced this secret technique is Xiao Bai from Qingyang Temple. Back then in the Temple of Time in the Land of 4 Seasons, Yang Kai fought against Xiao Bai and learned the power of this secret technique, so he still has a fresh memory of this secret technique. At this moment, when he saw someone performing this secret technique in this original sea, he was immediately attracted. When he turned his head to look, a fluttering figure in white clothes in the chaotic battlefield over there immediately came into view. If it wasn't Xiao Bai, who else? This guy has been wearing white clothes since Yang Kai met, cool and cold, but at the moment he seems to be in a bad situation, being besieged by people, and the white clothes are dotted with bright red blood, which is really dazzling. And with him there is another figure that Yang Kai is familiar with. Mirong Xiao. The 2 elite disciples of Qingyang Temple are standing on top of a small island, back to back, each using secret techniques to resist attacks from all directions. The small island they are on is not big enough for the 2 of them to settle down. Both of them are elites among the elites. They haven't seen each other for a few years, and they both have the top cultivation of Daoyuan 3rd level, but they are outnumbered and in an extremely difficult situation. Xiao Bai shoots a bloody arrow from time to time. Mirong Xiao, her hair was disheveled, and her clothes were wet with sweat, clinging to her exquisite and plump body. When Yang Kai saw this scene, he found that those who besieged them did not block the space. In other words, Xiao Bai and Mirong Xiao still had a chance to escape. It's just that the 2 of them didn't intend to run away. One had a cold and resolute face, while the other had an angry and sad expression. They stuck to their positions and swayed their strength. This is a land grab. Yang Kai could tell at a glance that the territory occupied by Xiao Bai and Mirong Xiao was obviously taken by that group of people, so these people came up to snatch it. probably because they wanted to rely on the number of people to bully the few. It's just that after they fought, they realized that Xiao Bai and Marong Xiaoxiao were not easy to provoke. And the gap that was intentionally left was for Xiao Bai and Marong Xiaoxiao to escape. This is the reason why the siege of the city must be closed. They do not want to fight to the death, they just want to force the two of them away. It's a pity that Xiao Bai and Marong Xiaoxiao didn't intend to escape at all, and the battle once entered a feverish level. Yang Kai quickly turned around and galloped over there. After all, he can be regarded as a registered disciple of Qingyang Temple. Wen Zishan and Gao Shueding also take care of him in every possible way, and he has some friendship with Xiao Bai and Marong Xiaoxiao. How can he ignore this kind of thing? As if aware of Yang Kai's movements, one of the long-faced old men who was besieging Xiao Bai and Marong Xiaoxiao said, "Give you one last chance, go, or not go." Marong Xiaoxiao gritted her teeth, and said coquettishly, "If you want to take our place, you have to kill us." Xiao Bai didn't say a word, the long sword in his hand bloomed with sword flowers, and he gave a silent answer with fierce murderous intent. "Okay, you don't go if there is a way to heaven, and you want to vote if there is no way to hell. If that's the case, then don't blame me for being cruel." While speaking, the long-faced old man gestured to the others with a sinister expression on his face. Obviously do not want to delay any longer, and want to make a quick decision. The others understood, their momentum changed, and their attacks became much more decisive and sharp. Both Xiao Bai and Marong Xiaoxiao's expressions darkened, and the pressure was like a mountain. And the long-faced old man himself flashed his figure, greeted Yang Kai, and clasped his fists in the distance. "We are doing business with the Dian Xingzong in the western regions. Friends, please give me some face and make a detour." "Oh, are you from the Star Sect?" Not only did Yang Kai not stop his pace, but he speeded up with joy on his face. "Exactly, Your Excellency." The long-faced old man thought that Yang Kai was also a martial artist from the western regions, and looked at him suspiciously, wondering where he came from. Yang Kai blushed and said, "I am from the palace of the King of Hell." "The palace of the King of Hell?" The long-faced old man looked suspicious, because after much deliberation, there was no sect called the Palace of the King of Hell in the western regions. "Are you teasing the old man? How could a sect use such a name that could easily provoke hatred?" Yang Kai was obviously making up nonsense. Yang Kai grinned and said, "How come? I'm really from the Palace of the King of Hades." At this point, his face darkened, and he said in a serious voice, "The King of Hades sent me to take your dog's life." The face of the long-faced old man changed, and he shouted loudly, "You are looking for death." As soon as he stimulated the energy in his body, his hands quickly formed mysterious imprints, and he opened his hands and grabbed Yang Kai. It seemed that he wanted to give Yang Kai a blow. But to his horror, Yang Kai suddenly disappeared before his eyes. This strange scene surprised the old man, because he didn't realize how Yang Kai disappeared. Suddenly, a chilly feeling came from the soles of his feet, making him wonder if he really saw a ghost. But before he finished his thoughts, Yang Kai's face appeared in front of him again, but at this moment, Yang Kai was only 3 inches away from him, and the faces of the two were almost stuck together. Hiss! The long-faced old man sucked in a breath of cold air, and without even thinking about stepping down, he was about to retreat quickly. At the same time, the source of energy swelled up all over his body, turning into visibly strong energy, lingering around his body for protection. Yang Kai grinned, revealing a treacherous smile, a pure white lotus blooming in his left eye, which disappeared in a flash. Shenglian, over the past year and a half, Yang Kai's spiritual consciousness has greatly increased in the process of subduing the mountain and river clock. Now he feels more and more proficient in using this soul secret technique, and the power seems to be much greater than before. Look. The pure white lotus bud instantly turned into a magical force, tearing open the long-faced old man's spiritual defense and rushing into his sea of a euro consciousness. As he retreated rapidly, the horrified long-faced old man froze in place for a moment, his eyes glazed over, and his face showed pain. In his field of vision, only the white lotus buds were left, which quickly bloomed, and the white light engulfed his body and mind. Yang Kai slammed a punch, and under the eruption of berserk power, the long-faced old man exploded into a cloud of blood mist, leaving no bones, and fell towards the origin sea. What? There was a sudden exclamation, and the people who were besieging Xiao Bai and Marong Xiaoxiao saw this scene. All of them were inexplicably horrified. Although the long-faced old man is a bit older, his strength is not hidden. Among the Daoyuan realm warriors in the western region Point Star sect, he can be ranked in the top 3, but it is such a person who was unexpectedly defeated by someone who did not know where he came from. The young man who came out of nowhere was punched and exploded, looking helpless. Just now he asked himself and others to make a quick decision, why did he die suddenly? The person who killed him must be Emperor Senior Realm, right? Although the number of Emperor Prestige realms in the Broken Star Sea is not many, there are definitely many. The bloody scene of the old man's death made those Dianfeng disciples tremble, and the suspicion in their hearts made them tremble with fear. Seeing Yang Kai rushing towards this side non-stop, with a cold smile on his face, how dare they continue to stay where you are? Abandoning Xiao Bai and Marong Xiao one after another, they turned around and fled to a distance. At this moment, they didn't even have the courage to avenge the old man, they just wanted to escape from this place to save their lives. Coagulate. Yang Kai stretched out his hand and squeezed it forward, and under the surge of space law, that piece of space instantly solidified. The few people who fled in a hurry widened their eyes in horror, but found that their speed was as slow as a turtle crawling, sweating on their foreheads, and chills all over their bodies. Xiao Bai and Marong Xiao were overjoyed when they saw this scene. They didn't know who helped them secretly, and they didn't have time to check the person's appearance. With a stomach full of fire, it can finally burst out at this moment. Human sword, spin out. Earth sword, meteor thunder. Sky sword, broken star. Xiao Bai's long sword flickered, and the secret technique of the three swords was fired at the same time. When the three swords were combined, the ferocious power trembled even the sky and the earth. Although Marong Xiao is a girl, she feels gentle and elegant to Yang Kai, but at this moment, she is merciless. A pair of Yu Tianwan is sacrificed by her, and in an instant, 1 is divided into 2, 2 is divided into 4, 4 is divided into 8, layer upon layer towards that point of Star Sect disciples shrouded in the past. The screams sounded instantly, one after another. Several disciples of Star Point Sect just wanted to escape. They had no fighting spirit. After being restrained by Yang Kai, they couldn't even resist. As soon as the 2 disciples of Qingyang Temple made a move, these people fell down like straws. In an instant, the sky was covered with blood and pieces of flesh, and severed limbs flew everywhere. In less than 10 breaths of time, several disciples of Dian Xingzong were killed on the spot, and their bodies fell towards the bottom of Yuan Sea. A series of star seals shot out from the backs of these people's hands, flying towards Xiao Bai and Marong Xiao, and were soon divided up by the 2. Thank you for this senior brother's help. Hey, it's senior brother Yang. Marong Xiao turned around, wanted to thank him, but saw Yang Kai's face all of a sudden, and shouted happily. She was still thinking about who helped herself and Xiao Bai, but she didn't expect it to be Yang Kai. Xiao Bai didn't say a word, he just turned his head and looked at where Yang Kai was, with an expression that I had guessed a long time ago. It was so cool. After all, in the Temple of Time, when he fought with Yang Kai had used the space power, so just now when you noticed the fluctuation of the space power, Xiao Bai guessed that it was Yang Kai. Looking back now, I found that I was right. Miss Marong, I haven't seen you for a few years, she's even more beautiful. Yang Kai flew to the 2 of them with a smile, and greeted Marong Xiao. Marong Xiao blushed, stomped her feet and said, Brother Yang is making fun of people. I didn't make fun of you, I just told the truth. Yang Kai said solemnly. Marong Xiao's face turned even redder. To be continued. This text is provided by the Dawn Update Group at CH82969929 Dian Hanji. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2472 In Depth. Xiao Bai suddenly snorted coldly and said, molesting my junior sister in front of me, do you think I'm deaf, or blind? Yang Kai turned his head with a smile and said, Xiao Bai, long time no see. Xiao Bai's face darkened, and he said, I told you, my name is Xiao Bai, Xiao Bai, Yi, not Xiao Bai. His forehead was covered with veins, obviously very annoyed by the title Xiao Bai. After a pause, he said with a serious face, I heard that you are also a disciple of the temple. Although you are a latecomer, the road to martial arts is that those who have mastered it come first. If you don't want to call me by my full name, you can also call me Junior Brother Xiao. I don't want to hear the word Xiao Bai again. I see, Junior Brother Xiao Bai. Yang Kai grinned. Xiao Bai's face turned pale with anger. Marong Xiao pursed her lips and snickered, and said, Senior Brother Yang, did you rush over to help after seeing our summons? Messaging. Yang Kai frowned, looking at her suspiciously. Murong Xiao wondered. Senior brother Yang didn't see it. Yang Kai Dao. I don't even have your messaging beads or compass, how can I see? Speaking of this, he suddenly remembered something, and quickly took it out from the space ring. This is a golden token, which is exactly the Qingyang golden token that Gao Shueding gave him in Fenggulan City. The person who holds this Qingyang golden token is an elite disciple of Qingyang Temple. Looking at the entire Qingyang Temple, there are only a few disciples who own this token. It's just that after Yang Kai got the Qingyang golden token, he has never used it, and has no chance to use it. He probed into his spiritual thoughts, and only then did he understand what Murong Xiao meant. This Qingyang golden token can actually have the effect of a communication compass, allowing disciples to communicate with each other. Because at this moment, there is a message left in the token, which is the message for help sent by Murong Xiao not long ago. Seeing his demeanor, Murong Xiao knew that this was the first time he knew such a thing, so she pursed her lips and said with a smile, Senior brother Yang will check more information about Jin Ling in the future, because he can't tell when he will meet his fellow apprentices and younger sisters. The next message. I remember. Yang Kai nodded, put away the Qingyang golden token. Although he didn't discover the message from Murong Xiao in time, he came here by accident and saved her and Xiao Bai once. Where's Sha Sheng? Why didn't you see him? Yang Kai glanced around, who asked. Since Xiao Bai and Murong Xiao can get together, it makes no sense that Sha Sheng is not here, but there is no sign of Sha Sheng here. I don't know where he went. Xiao Bai said. Brother separated from us 2 months ago, saying he was looking for a place to make a breakthrough. Yang Kai raised his brows and said, Oh, Sha Sheng wants to be promoted to the emperor. Murong Xiao said with a worried face. Well, senior brother, his cultivation has already reached the peak of Daoyuan, but he has been suffering from no chance. This time he came to the sea of a broken stars and finally touched his breath, so he hastily prepared. Then why don't you follow? Yang Kai frowned. Since Sha Sheng wants to break through to the emperor's senior realm, he must be guarded by someone, otherwise he will be unable to resist any sneak attack. Xiao Bai sighed. He refused. We also followed him quietly for a few days, but he was thrown away by playing a golden cicada. Dumped. Yang Kai's face was dark, but thinking about Sha Sheng's character, it is really possible to do this. From this point of view, Sha Sheng doesn't have much confidence in breaking through the emperor's senior realm. If you are really sure, he wouldn't prepare secretly by himself, and even leave his juniors behind. It is precisely because he is not sure that he is worried that he will fall under the baptism of the energy of heaven and earth. That's why I don't want Xiao Bai and Murong Xiao to follow, lest they have a shadow in their hearts after seeing it. Xiao Bai and Murong Xiao are also at the 3rd level of Daoyuan. If they really have a psychological shadow on their promotion because of Sha Sheng, it is very likely that they will never be able to break through in the future. Yang Kai thought of this, Xiao Bai and Murong Xiao undoubtedly thought of it too, so both of them looked anxious. I feel uneasy. Seeing this, Yang Kai quickly comforted him. Sha Sheng has a strong background. Promotion should not be a big problem. I have come this way. I have met someone who has been promoted successfully. Since others can, Sha Sheng can naturally do it. You don't have to worry too much about it. Worry. I hope so. Xiao Bai also knew that he had no choice but to pray that Sha Shengji would have his own destiny. Senior brother Yang, you came here to find a place to refine the origin, right? Murong Xiao asked. That's right, I also passed by here by chance, and found that the situation here is different, so I came to have a look. Murong Xiao smiled and said, This is the famous sea of a origin. If you find this place, you don't have to go to other places to find the origin. Brother Yang, you can stay and absorb the origin with Brother Xiao. The location here is just big enough for 2 people, personal. What about you? Yang Kai asked. This small island is not big, it is indeed only enough for 2 people to stay here. If Yang Kai stays, Murong Xiao will definitely have no place. Murong Xiao smiled gently, and said, I'll protect you from the side. Xiao Bai said. The 3 of them take turns, and it happens that one of them can look after them, so as not to be attacked by others. Yang Kai thought for a while, shook his head and said, it's still not possible, such an opportunity is hard to find, you two should refine and absorb it here, I will go to other places to look for it, if there are any guys who don't have long eyes come to look for it trouble, remember to send me a message, and I will come over as soon as possible. Murong Xiao said. But there is no other place here, so there are many people wanting to grab the site. There is no place. Yang Kai's face darkened. Xiao Bai also said. Basically there is nothing left. We also searched for a long time to find this place to stay. We were targeted by those people before we stood still. It would be futile for you to look for it again, unless... Unless what? Yang Kai looked at him in astonishment. Murong Xiao bit her red lips and said, unless senior brother Yang has the cultivation base of the Emperor Senior realm. Why do you have to have the cultivation base of Emperor Senior stage? Yang Kai's expression became strange. Xiao Bai explained, the deeper you go into this source sea, the richer the source power becomes, and the easier it is to absorb and refine. Therefore, the further you go in, the higher the martial artist's cultivation base. Didn't you come this way? Did you find out that none of the warriors on the fringe have very high cultivation bases? Yang Kai heard the words, thought about it carefully, and found that it was indeed what he said, but he was still strange. What does this have to do with the Emperor Senior stage? Xiao Bai said, because in the deepest place, where the original power is the most intense, there are a few Emperor-level people occupying a large area. People who are not Emperor-level are not allowed to approach. Killed by them. So overbearing. Yang Kai's expression sank. Murong Xiao said, although there are many places to stay there, and the original power is relatively stronger, but no one dares to go there. Senior brother Yang, you must not go there, otherwise your life will be in danger. I wrote it down. Yang Kai nodded, without explaining too much to her. He was really not afraid of the Emperor Senior realm who had just been promoted, even Feng Zan who had descended from the soul was killed by him. How could these newly promoted Emperor Senior realm in the sea of a broken stars make him timid? But I still want to look for it, if I can't find it. Yang Kai pondered for a moment, grinning a sinister smile, and said, I can grab one. Murong Xiao and Xiao Bai were in a cold sweat, but considering the strength Yang Kai showed just now, they weren't too worried. Yang Kai's strength seems to have surpassed the level of Dao Yuanjing, otherwise he would not be able to blow up the long-faced old man of the Star Sect with one punch. Anyway, just be careful. Seeing that Xiao Bai couldn't stop him, he could only warn him. You have to be careful, but if there is any trouble, remember to send me a message. Yang Kai said, and then he hugged the two of them, turned around, and drove towards the deepest part of the original sea. Looking at his going back, Xiao Bai and Murong Xiao were silent for a long time, before Xiao Bai said, hurry up to refine, don't miss this opportunity. Murong Xiao nodded, and the two immediately sat down cross-legged. While galloping, Yang Kai took his Qingyang golden token out of the space ring and kept it close to him. In this way, he can sense the fluctuation of the message immediately, and he has been placed in the space ring before, and he can't detect the message from others at all. All the way forward, the power of the source is getting stronger and stronger. Yang Kai didn't know how far he flew, he only knew that he had come this way, and he could see many Daoyuanjing sitting cross-legged on the small island below, refining and absorbing the power of the source. But after a certain moment, no one could be seen anymore, even if there were vacant islands below, no one was occupying them, but on those vacant islands, there were some extremely miserable corpses laying on them. Where, it seems to be a warning for latecomers. Yang Kai understood that this should be the masterpiece of the Emperor Senior stage who occupied the best positions. Although this method is bloody, it is extremely effective, because the people who died were all the top Daoyuan fighters in the Star World, and even they were murdered here, and those who came later must weigh their abilities. If someone else saw such a scene, they would turn around and leave immediately, but Yang Kai turned a blind eye and continued to move forward rumblingly, without any intention of hiding himself. At a certain moment, a wave of emperors will suddenly envelop from somewhere below. Although this emperor's will was not too pure or surging, it was after all an emperor's will, which coincided with the principles of heaven, and Yang Kai's flying body paused slightly. Breathing is a little rough. Garbage from Daoyuan realm dares to come here. It seems that they don't know how to write the word dead. A deep voice sounded, and immediately from somewhere in the Yuan Sea below, a huge blood-red palm volleyed towards him. Yang Kai took a picture. This slap was not only huge and unparalleled, but also exuded an extremely strong bloody smell, as if it was made of blood. It made people nauseous and fierce. To be continued. Chapter 2473 Landing. Seeing that blood-red slap was about to strike in front of him, Yang Kai raised his hand, and when the source force in his body moved, the same huge slap greeted him. Rumbling. There was a burst of explosive sound, the situation changed drastically, and energy overflowed. In just a moment, the two palm prints disappeared, as if they had never existed. Yang Kai was as motionless as a mountain, standing quietly in place. Somewhere below, there was a slight hay, which seemed a little surprised. A pure divine sense swept over Yang Kai's body, probably wanting to see if he had hidden his cultivation, but after looking around, Yang Kai was still at the Tao origin realm. This made the Emperor Senior stage who shot Yang Kai unavoidably a little shocked. He really hasn't come across a source of Tao that can take his palm, even though he hasn't been promoted to the Emperor for a long time. In the depths of the sea of A origin, 7 or 8 of the source of Tao have died in his hands. That's right, no matter who it is, they will be killed by his palm. The disparity in strength between Emperor Senior realm and Daoyuan realm is like a world of difference. But when it came to Yang Kai, it didn't work. Not only did it not hurt him at all, it even failed to make his body move. This person was secretly horrified. He didn't know what the source of Yang Kai was. He had such terrifying strength. He was not so strong when he was in the Tao origin realm. Yang Kai grinned and said, "I'm just passing by. I just want to find a place to stay. Friends don't need to be so enthusiastic." His divine sense also swept to the Emperor Senior realm who shot at him. This guy has red hair, as if poured with blood, and his whole body exudes an extremely violent and bloody aura, and he doesn't know which sect he is from, what kind of evil practice has been practiced. Although Yang Kai is not afraid of him, but after all, there is no hatred, so if he cannot do it, Yang Kai does not want to do it. The red-haired young man looked up at where Yang Kai was, and after a long silence, he said, "Go, don't appear within 1,000 miles of me." "Thank you." Yang Kai chuckled, fisted at him, and then passed by. But after hearing what this person said, Yang Kai also understood why a few Emperor Senior realm can occupy a large area with the most intense source power. Emperor Senior realm, how can others have a place? However, there has never been any reason in this world. If you are strong, you can be unscrupulous. If any Daoyuan realm dared to be disobedient, those corpses who died on the small island would be the end. Half an hour later, Yang Kai had been far away from the red-haired youth for more than 2,000 miles, but he hadn't found a place to stay, because he discovered that some of the small islands that existed in the depths were all brought here first. The Emperor Senior realms were smashed to pieces. They obviously didn't want to leave a place for latecomers to absorb the source, so they did such overbearing things. A sky-shattering spear light suddenly blasted from below, piercing through the void, ignoring the barrier of space, and instantly struck in front of Yang Kai, causing Yang Kai's skin to ache from the piercing spear intent. Yang Kai's eyes narrowed slightly. He felt the power of this spear, and he didn't dare to push it too far. He raised his hand and took out the million sword, and slashed out with one sword. The bright sword light came across, and collided with the spear light, making a huge sound. "Huh, a mere Tao origin realm can take a blow from Ben Shao. It's really strange." A voice came from below, just like the red-haired young man before. He seemed a little surprised. Yang Kai said with a dark face, "You Emperor Senior stage, it's okay to occupy such a large area, why do you all have to make a surprise attack? Shameless." But the man laughed. "Those who dare to come here without the strength, can only die." He paused, and then said, "You can come here, does it mean that you have passed the test of the Red Ghost?" Yang Kai moved in his heart, and said, "You mean that red-haired young man?" "Exactly. He is like you. He sneaked up on me despicably, and when I blocked him, he let me go." Yang Kai snorted unhappily. "No wonder." The man nodded slightly, and after a while, he waved his hand and said, "You go. Since the Red Ghost let you in, it means that you are also considered a talent, and I will not attack you." Yang Kai curled his lips when he heard the words. This person said as if he was being kind to him by being let in by them, but he even boasted that he was a talent, and his tone was bigger than the sky. "How many Emperor Senior stages are there in the back? Shouldn't they all attack me?" Yang Kai asked with a sullen face. "If that's the case, then he doesn't have to hide any strength, just fight all the way to avoid trouble." I never thought that this person could change his face faster than turning the pages of a book, and said coldly, "Boy, you talk too much. If you let you pass it, you can pass it. If you don't want to pass it, I will keep you." Yang Kai snorted, didn't bother to entangle with him, turned around and flew deeper. But this time, he changed his previous low-key attitude, and directly stimulated his own source power, making the source force swell, which is extremely eye-catching. I believe that as long as those emperors are not too focused on absorbing the source, they should be far away. The position can sense his presence. I don't know if it is the reason why Yang Kai is so confident and high profile. Although he walked all the way, although he felt the breath of the two emperors senior stage, but these two people didn't shoot him again, they just used their divine sense to sweep him. I didn't pay attention anymore. Yang Kai is so happy. Half an hour later, his eyes lit up, and he flew towards a certain place below. Below that, there is a good place to stay, and it covers an extremely spacious area, about 100 feet in radius. Such a large place to stay is rare in this original sea, because the small islands here are not real small islands, and it is not known why they were formed. Not only are they few in number, but they are also small in size. For example, the place Yang Kai found now can accommodate hundreds of people without being too crowded. After Yang Kai landed, he glanced left and right, and was extremely satisfied with this place. He really wanted to ask Xiao Bai and Marong Xiao to come and join him, but thinking about the previous methods of the Emperor Senior Stage, Yang Kai felt that it was still a good idea. Never mind. Unless he goes out to pick them in, otherwise, with the current strength of Xiao Bai and Marong Xiao, there is no way to pass the test. After sitting down cross-legged, Yang Kai tried to absorb the source of this place, and soon he was very happy, because the source of power here is indeed much purer and richer than other places, and it seems to be better absorbed. For any martial artist, this is simply a blessed land for cultivation. He didn't rush to refine and absorb it, but released his divine sense to check the situation in the next 4 weeks. Within 1,000 miles, there is no one inhabited. As soon as he waved his hand, a colossal figure appeared beside him. The huge figure seemed to step on the ground, and the moment it appeared, the small island sank slightly. Dharmakaya. Generally, Yang Kai would not easily summon the Dharma body out of the mysterious small world, because the body of the Dharma body is too big, it is not very convenient to move, and the summoning needs to pay too much spiritual mind. But now is a good time to call him out. There is no one here, and there is no need to worry that the strange existence of the law body will be discovered by others, and there is so much source power here, Yang Kai can't absorb it all by himself, so summoning the law body can also give him some benefits. Earlier, Dharma body said to himself that his cultivation seems to have reached a bottleneck, and this bottleneck may be related to the heaven-devouring battle technique he practiced. Now let him absorb the original power of refining here, maybe he may have a chance to break through that bottleneck. There was no need to communicate. As soon as the Dharma body came out, he knew Yang Kai's thoughts, carefully sat down cross-legged, and silently practiced the profound arts. The star refining Ju is also known by Dharma body. Back then, he used the star refining Ju to refine and melt the original power of the hanging continent, thus merging with the hanging continent into one, creating a huge body. The star refining art is a technique that specializes in refining the original power, while the heaven-devouring art is to devour everything. When these two heaven-defying techniques collide, what kind of amazing sparks will be rubbed against each other? Yang Kai is also looking forward to it. After releasing the Dharma body, Yang Kai didn't stop, pinched a few spells in his hand, tapped on the mysterious boundary bead, opened the gap in the boundary, and let the mysterious boundary bead devour and absorb the original power of this place. If he wants to complete the laws of heaven and earth of the mysterious boundary pearl, he can only pin his hopes on the original power. Observing silently for a moment, Yang Kai found that the original power in the original sea was being crazily swallowed by the mysterious small world, so he closed his eyes and concentrated on his body, urged the star alchemy art, and refined it by himself. In an instant, this vast island seemed to be a source of devouring the essence. The Dharma body urges the two heaven-defying techniques of star refining Ju and heaven-devouring battle technique. The huge body is like a bottomless pit, no matter how many origins come, it can be quickly accepted and refined. Not to mention the mysterious boundary orb, which devours the original power, is even more terrifying than the Dharma body. Compared with them, Yang Kai's movements seem to be insignificant, but the speed at which he casts the star refining art and refines the original source is by no means comparable to that of ordinary warriors. With the passage of time, the movement here is getting bigger and bigger, more and more terrifying. There are constant rumbling sounds, and the original power in the original sea is attracted to this place one after another, just like 10,000 flowing into the sea. Then disappeared. The huge sea of a origin was actually driven by this magical force, slowly flowing towards the small island where Yongkai was. The commotion here seems to have affected the entire origin sea, but Yongkai, the instigator, seems to know nothing about it. Slowly, the martial artists who absorbed and refined at the edge of the original sea realized that something was wrong, because they were surprised to see that the original sea seemed to be getting smaller. Originally, they were still a little away from the edge, but gradually, the distance became smaller and smaller, getting closer and closer until the sea of a origin was completely away from them. It was as if the entire Yuan Sea was ebbing, and they who kept Yuan in the sea were left on the beach even if they didn't move. This discovery surprised many warriors, and they didn't know why. To be continued. This text is provided by the Dawn Update Group at ch82969929 Dian Hanji. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2474 Cannibalism. Phone reading. The reduction in the area of a the origin sea also caused many warriors to fight for the territory again. For a while, the scene at the edge of the origin sea was chaotic. Pin Shu Wang WWW versus ODTW. Co ma euro a per mil smally 1/4 o. Although this situation has not yet spread to a deeper level, it is conceivable that with the passage of time, those warriors who were originally in the depths will definitely encounter similar situations, and in the end they will not be able to survive alone. At the same time, at an unknown distance from the original sea, on a broken star. It seems that a great war has just happened here. The surface of the cold stars is full of mess, and the chaotic power fluctuations have not subsided for a long time. A man and a woman were lying on the ground, who had been hit by some secret technique. Although they were not dead, they couldn't move. They both stared wide-eyed, staring in horror at a middle-aged man standing not far in front of them. This middle-aged man was tall and bold, with a bold and unrestrained appearance. There was an extremely uncomfortable aura all over his body, and his eyes were shining brightly, which made people shudder. There were also several not shallow wounds on his body, the flesh and blood rolled up, exposing the white bones, and the blood flowed all over the ground, which looked extremely shocking. But the middle-aged man didn't feel any pain at all. Not only that, he even seemed to enjoy this feeling very much, grinning ferociously. "You, who the hell are you?" The man lying on the ground was pale and exclaimed in panic. The middle-aged man squinted at him, and snorted, "What do you know so much about dying? You want to kill us?" The man was shocked when he heard the words, and said angrily, "Our brothers and sisters have no grievances against you, why do you want to do this?" The two of them were absorbing the original energy well here, but they didn't want this middle-aged man to suddenly fall from the sky and beat them up without saying a word. Relying on the strength of their numbers, the two of them were not too afraid, and fought with him. "I never thought, but the result was extremely unexpected. My senior brothers and sisters were not this guy's opponent at all. Although this middle-aged man is only at the 3rd level of Daoyuan and has not been promoted to Emperor Zun, his strength is not at the level of Daoyuan at all, and he knocked them down on the ground. Not to mention what kind of weird secret technique was used to completely immobilize himself and his junior sister." "Wrong." The middle-aged man smiled strangely. That smile made one's hair stand on end, and said lightly, "I am not trying to kill you. Don't kill us." The good-looking woman felt relieved when she heard the words. She forced a smile on her face, and said coquettishly, "Mister, as long as you don't kill us, you can say anything." The man before heard this. Eyeballs protruding, he looked at her in astonishment, and whispered, "Junior sister, you." It was as if he was meeting his junior sister for the first time. He never thought that she would say such words to a strange man, and his heart ached. "It's easy to say anything." The middle-aged man smiled slightly, his eyes moved slightly, and looked at the woman. The woman forced a smile and said, "Sir, you can do whatever you want, as long as you don't kill me." The senior brother listened nearby. He almost spat out a mouthful of blood, and his heart surged with anger, but dare not say a word. The middle-aged man smiled evilly. "What if I want to eat you?" The senior brother turned pale when he heard the words. He would come here for anything he was afraid of, but he also knew that he had to bow his head under the eaves now, if the junior sister could sell her lower body and appearance so that she could wait for others to live. It's not unacceptable. After all, life is the most important thing. If you die, you lose everything. After thinking up to this point, he gritted his teeth, closed his eyes, and tried to see nothing. "Eat me." A blush appeared on the woman's face. Cheating and saying, "Then you have to be gentle." There was a light in the eyes of the middle-aged man. He looked extremely excited. He nodded and said, "Don't worry, don't look at me like this, I am a gentle person." As he spoke, he walked towards the woman step by step. Seeing this, the woman hurriedly said, "Don't be here, can you find a remote place?" Although she is willing to commit herself to everything, she is still under the nose of her senior brother after all. She is really embarrassed. She just wants to let this middle-aged man take her to a place where no one is around. "Go out of your way." The middle-aged man chuckled and said, "It's the same everywhere." He seemed to have some perverted hobby, insisting on doing the next thing in front of that senior brother. The woman understood. She couldn't help but glanced worriedly at the senior brother, only to find that her senior brother had his eyes closed and turned his head to the side, but his body was trembling, looking extremely angry. The woman knew that her brother must be in a bad mood, but now that her life was at stake, she couldn't comfort her, so she could only grit her teeth and accept her fate. The middle-aged man walked up to her and looked down at her condescendingly. His fiery gaze didn't hide at all, as if he wanted to melt the woman. The woman's heart trembled, knowing that the matter had come to an end, and it was useless to say anything. "Kids, don't look, close your eyes," the middle-aged man ordered lightly. The woman sighed lightly, and closed her eyes obediently, but she felt funny in her heart. Although she looked young, she was not a child anymore. It was not that she didn't understand things between men and women. How strange. The middle-aged man stretched out his hand and sucked her in. He directly put his arms around her soft and boneless waist, and hugged her tightly. The woman was strangled for a moment and was a little out of breath, and couldn't help but groan. She clearly felt that the middle-aged man's breathing became quicker, and the scalding hot air sprayed on her neck, making her body weak and her cheeks hot for no reason. But at this moment, she suddenly heard a voice that made her hair stand on end. Heaven-eating tactics. The next moment, there was a sudden pain in the neck, as if bitten by some ferocious beast. The woman's face paled immediately. She quickly opened her eyes, and turned her head to look. The imaginary scene of being molested and profaned did not come as expected. Instead, the middle-aged man had red eyes, tilted his head, bit his neck, swallowing his own blood. Not only that, but the middle-aged man seemed to have performed some strange and weird skills, and the woman obviously felt that her energy, blood and cultivation were rapidly passing away. "Ah!" The woman screamed in fright. Only then did she realize that the cannibalism that the middle-aged man said before was not what she thought. He really wants to eat people. "Senior brother, save me." She opened her mouth and shouted in panic. The senior brother over there, who closed his eyes and endured the shame in his heart, also noticed the abnormality, and quickly turned his head to look. What he saw made him startled. Because the man's mouthful of blood was dripping with blood, biting his junior sister's pink and slender neck, his Adam's apple was constantly wriggling, swallowing his junior sister's blood. And it was visible to the naked eye that junior sister's flowery and jade-like face was aging rapidly, and even her hair turned gray. "Brother, save me," the woman shouted again. The senior brother lying on the ground was so shocked that he was completely unresponsive, staring blankly at this horrific scene, only feeling his whole body soaked in coolness. "Master, brother." In less than 5 breaths of time, the woman actually looked haggard, and her whole body was lingering with death. After uttering 2 words with difficulty, the look in her eyes became cloudy and lifeless. She died just like that. With a wave of his hand, the middle-aged man pushed her body aside, reached out and touched the corner of his mouth, took a deep breath, and showed a lustful expression. And those few horrible wounds on his body healed at a speed visible to the naked eye at this moment. In the blink of an eye, he had already recovered, and his skin became even better than that of a newborn baby. The senior brother was already stunned by the scene just now, and had no idea what he saw. Seeing the middle-aged man cast his eyes on him, he hurriedly said, "My lord, please forgive me, my lord, please forgive me." The tragic death of his junior sister kept flashing before his eyes, and he didn't want to die like that himself. The middle-aged man snorted coldly, but stretched out a hand towards him from a distance, and shouted, "The heaven-devouring art of war." The zon gong was running, and there was an extremely terrifying suction force from the palm. The senior brother lying on the ground couldn't help but screamed loudly, but the energy and blood in the body and the strength of the whole body were moving towards him uncontrollably. The middle-aged man rushed forward and was completely accepted by him. "If you kill me, my elder brother will not let you go. My elder brother has already been promoted to the emperor." The man lying on the ground yelled, trying to make the opponent throw a mouse. Unexpectedly, the middle-aged man sneered, and said, "Emperor prestige, so what? I haven't tasted emperor prestige yet. If your elder brother really comes to avenge you, I don't mind sending him with you. You meet. You, madman, madman, you will die." The man gritted his teeth and cursed a few times, his voice gradually weakened, following in the footsteps of his junior sister. 2 star marks flew out from the 2 corpses and landed on the back of the middle-aged man's hand. And the star seal owned by this middle-aged man is the same 7-pointed star seal as Yang Kai, and its light is even stronger than Yang Kai's. It seems that there are signs that he will be promoted to the 8-pointed star seal. How many people were killed? After killing the 2 people, the middle-aged man stood there silently feeling for a while. Suddenly his expression became violent, he raised his hands high, and roared to the sky, not at all the joy after killing, but extremely furious. After a long time, the whistling sound subsided. With a gloomy face, he gritted his teeth and said, "Bottleneck, bottleneck. Why don't you let me be promoted to Emperor Senior Realm? It's been 700 years. I've worked hard for 700 years. Why can't I break through? God is so unfair, I don't accept it." After cursing for a while, he suddenly said angrily, "A group of trash, none of them can withstand the backlash of divine skills, they are not as good as this genius, they are all trash." While scolding, he wantonly swayed his power, blasting the surroundings into a mess, and he didn't know why he was going crazy. To be continued. Chapter 2475. Don't underestimate yourself. At a certain moment, the middle-aged man suddenly turned his head and looked in one direction, as if he had discovered something. His eyes widened as he looked around, the original rage calmed down, became agitated, and his body trembled. "Ha ha ha ha," he suddenly laughed loudly, "the seeds are ripe. Finally a seed has matured. Who is it?" He yelled crazily for a while, his expression was so excited that he couldn't help himself. Soon, he sacrificed a warship and galloped towards the depths of the sea of a broken stars. It was seen that the direction he was flying was towards the sea of a origin up. Time continued to pass. Although Yang Kai devoted a part of his mind to paying attention to the surrounding situation, planning to immediately put away the Dharma body and mysterious boundary orb once he found someone approaching him, but his own absorption and refinement did not delay at all. Mysterious boundary bead and Dharma body are absorbing more and more fiercely, making Yang Kai tremble with fear. 1 day, 2 days, 5 days, 10 days. The area of the original sea has been greatly reduced compared to the beginning. Not only that, but the original power contained in the remaining original sea is also countless times thinner than the beginning. Now not only the warriors on the edge found the problem, but even those warriors in the depths also discovered the problem. In the deepest part of the origin sea, the territory occupied by the emperors. The red-haired young man who had shot at Yang Kai before suddenly frowned and looked up into the sky, only to see a person standing alone in the midair, looking at him coldly. The red-haired youth grinned and looked back without fear. "Didn't you do it?" The visitor looked at the red-haired young man for a while, and suddenly said something nonsensical. The red-haired young man pondered for a while, and said, "I also want to know who is playing tricks." After the two looked at each other, Chi-Chi looked in one direction. The red-haired youth said, "The power of the source seems to be flowing there all the time." The visitor nodded, and said solemnly, "That direction is where Yaosi is." Yaosi. The red-haired young man shrank his eyelids when he heard the words, showing a hint of fear, as if this Yaosi had such a great background that he, who was in the Emperor Venerable realm, did not dare to take it lightly. "Would you like to take a look?" the visitor asked. The red-haired young man smiled contemptuously and said, "It turns out that you came to me for this reason. Are all warriors in the southern region so timid?" The visitor snorted softly, and did not deny it, but said, "After all, Yaosi is the son of the great emperor." The red-haired young man sneered and said, "Isn't there a son of the emperor here in your southern region? Why didn't you look for her, but came to look for this young master?" The man said, "She hasn't reached Emperor Senior Realm yet, so it's useless to find her. If you're afraid, I'll go over and see the situation alone." "Who said I'm afraid?" The red-haired young man said angrily, stood up while speaking, and said viciously, "If you dare to snatch this young master's original power, even the son of the emperor will spit it out for me." He flew up and flew straight towards the direction where Yaosi was, and the other person hurriedly followed after seeing this. Not long after, the two suddenly discovered an abnormal situation. They saw that not far away, on a small island covering a vast area, 3 newly promoted emperors had gathered. Not only that, they wanted to find Yao Si is also among them. And standing in front of the 3 emperor senior realm is a young man who only has the 3rd level of Daoyuan. I don't know what these 4 people are doing at the moment, they are staring at each other, and they have no intention of making a move, but what surprised the 2 of them is that the young man at the 3rd level of Daoyuan was facing the 3 emperors. When I was there, my face didn't change, and I didn't have the slightest fear. It's him. The red-haired youth couldn't help but let out a low cry. Another person asked in astonishment, "You know him?" The red-haired young man's face sank, and he replied, "This guy passed by where I was half a month ago, and received my blow without any injuries." When the man heard the words, his face changed slightly, as if he couldn't believe it. The red-haired young man said, "Young master, I didn't hold back. This person is a bit interesting. If he can be promoted to the emperor, his future must be limitless. I don't know which domain he is a disciple of. Anyway, he is not from my eastern domain." The other person didn't answer, but the shock in his heart could not be calmed down for a long time, and his eyes were fixed on the young man of Dao origin realm. "Go down and have a look." The red-haired youth greeted and flew towards the small island first. On the small island, Yang Kai looked unhappy. When he was enjoying absorbing the original power before, he suddenly felt that someone was approaching him. In a panic, he quickly put away the mysterious boundary orb and the Dharma body, and before he could react, suddenly there were 3 when all the emperors came to him, they all stared at him sullenly, as if they wanted to eat people. These 3 emperor senior realm are undoubtedly newly promoted in the Broken Star Sea. It seems that their realms are unstable, but they are emperor senior realm after all, and they have the majesty of a strong man. Why did they find him here? Yang Kai can guess a little bit of the reason. It is nothing more than the movement of absorbing the source of trouble on his side is too big, let others notice it, come and see the situation. This is unavoidable. Yang Kai did not expect that the mysterious boundary orb and the Dharma body could make such a big noise together, and the support for half a month was beyond his expectations. In the past half month, whether it is the Dharma body, the mysterious boundary bead, or Yang Kai himself, they have all obtained unimaginable benefits. The warriors in the entire sea of A Euro origin may not have absorbed as many origins as he has absorbed. And the original power contained in the original sea at this moment has also shrunk significantly, and it is no longer the strong seen before. 2 more people flew over and fell to the side. Yang Kai glanced at it, and suddenly his eyes lit up, and he greeted one of them, saying, "Hey, brother Wuchang, long time no see." He has some impressions of that red-haired young man. He was attacked by this red-haired young man half a month ago. This man seems to be called Kai Gui. And the person who came with the red ghost was Wuchang from Tianwu Holy Land, one of the top rising stars in the southern region. Yang Kai was not surprised that Wuchang could be promoted to the Emperor Senior stage, but he was a little surprised to meet him here. As soon as Kai Gui heard this, he immediately turned his head to look at Wuchang, and said, "Do you know this kid?" "I don't know, I haven't met, don't ask me," Wuchang said with a cold face. Although he has no grievances with Yang Kai, but there is no friendship. At this moment, Yang Kai has touched the anger of the public, and Wuchang doesn't want to have anything to do with him. Yang Kai said with a dark face, "Brother Wuchang, why is he so ruthless and ungrateful? Back then in the land of 4 seasons, we had a good cooperation, and the ending was a happy ending. Brother Wuchang doesn't miss the old love, so don't be so indifferent." Wuchang said angrily, "What did you cooperate with? It's nothing more than a transaction between you and me. What are you talking about so nicely?" Yang Kai grinned and said, "The transaction is also a cooperation. Didn't Brother Wuchang benefit from it? You can be promoted to the Emperor Senior stage so quickly. Is it somewhat due to me?" Sha Sheng is still working hard to prepare for a breakthrough. He stared at impermanence with scorching eyes, meaning something. Wuchang naturally knew that he was talking about the Tamiao pill, and immediately snorted coldly, "A transaction is a transaction, both money and goods are paid, and they are irrelevant from now on. Brother Wuchang, why don't you just change your name to Wuchang?" Yang Kai said disappointedly. The red ghost said in surprise, "Boy, please speak clearly, what kind of things are you trading that can help people advance to the Emperor?" The other 3 who came first to the Emperor Senior realm also showed interest. Although they have been promoted now, they may not need that mysterious thing, but is it mortal who can help people advance to the Emperor Senior realm? If you can get a little over, it will be of great benefit to the Zongmen. Which one of these emperors is not the heir or descendant of the top powerhouse? There must be the support of the sect behind him. What kid? Yang Kai's face darkened, he glared at the red ghost, and said, "You red-haired ghost really don't like to listen to it. You actually called me a red-haired ghost." The red ghost's eyeballs were almost protruding. Several other people were also stunned, looking at Yang Kai with incredible expressions. After all, among the 6 people here, only Yang Kai has a Dao origin realm, and the others are all Emperor seniors, but Yang Kai has no fear at all. Instead, he talks freely, and he is not even polite to Kai Gui. This is amazing. One of the 3 emperors, a young man in a strong suit, laughed and said, "Kai Gui, you are being underestimated." Kai Gui glared at Yang Kai with a displeased expression, and then snorted, "It's not that I was underestimated, it's because I didn't underestimate myself." When everyone heard the words, they all understood in their hearts, and understood that Kai Gui meant that Yang Kai didn't feel that he was inferior because of his lower cultivation base, so he didn't have the slightest scruples in speaking. "I heard that he took a blow from you before?" the young man in strong clothes asked again. Kai Gui snorted. "That's right. This young master's attack with 70% of his strength was completely blocked by him." "Oh." Another young man who was surrounded by black air raised his brows and looked up and down at Yang Kai, as if he wanted to get to know him again. 70% of the Kai Gui's power is not something that ordinary Daoyuan realm can take over. Even the best in Daoyuan realm will definitely be severely injured, but Kai Gui actually said that Yang Kai completely blocked it. The meaning is intriguing. Haha, it seems that the people who came out of Ahan Hall are nothing more than that. The young man in strong clothes laughed. The red ghost suddenly became unhappy, and said angrily, "It's as if you were doing something to him. Don't tell me that this kid didn't pass through your territory." The well-dressed young man curled his lips immediately. This person is the Emperor Senior Stage who sacrificed a spear to Yang Kai before. He is one of the only 2 people who have fought against Yang Kai, and it is not known which sect he is from. Kai Gui waved his hand and said, "Don't bother with trivial matters. I just want to know, what are you guys doing here?" The last chubby Emperor Zunjing said with a naive expression, "Didn't you notice any abnormalities in this original sea? This person is extremely fat, the fat on his face is piled up together, his squeezed eyes can hardly be seen, and he is not tall. If someone looks at him from a distance, he might think that this person is a wax gourd. But despite his funny appearance and body shape, this person is also a genuine Emperor Senior realm." To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn update group at AOI paragraph mark S. A centi per mil. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is the author's greatest motivation. Chapter 2476 Goodbye Wumengchuan. When the fat man asked, Kai Gui said, "It is precisely because I noticed something abnormal that I came here to check on the situation." The fat man said, "So do we." The red ghost was stunned when he heard the words, and glanced at the Emperor Senior realm wrapped in black air, and said, "Isn't it Yao Si who moved your hands and feet?" The Emperor Senior realm called Yao Si snorted coldly and said, "Why do you think it was me who did it?" "Guess." Kai Gui sniffed. The strong young man said in a concentrated voice, "It's not the problem of brother Yao Si. The original power in the original sea flows in this direction. This small island seems to be the source of the problem." As soon as this remark came out, 5 pairs of eyes all looked at Yang Kai in unison. Yang Kai's face darkened, and said, "Everyone is watching me, I don't even know what you are talking about. What happened? You don't stay in your own place to absorb the essence of refining, and come to me to make trouble." €. The well-dressed young man frowned, and said, "The original power in the original sea has been greatly reduced in the past half a month, and the flow of the original power is all pointing to this place. What do you think we are here for?" Yang Kai's eyes widened, showing a harmless expression, and said in shock, "Really? No way. This statement is as false as possible. After all, the reduction and flow of the original power is clearly visible. Not to mention that Yang Kai is a Daoyuan third-layer realm, even a martial artist with a lower cultivation base can detect it, but he is now unexpectedly." There was an expression of ignorance on his face. It was obvious that there was no silver 300 taels in this place. But looking at his expression, it didn't look like he was lying, especially his eyes, which were clear and bright, without any trace of pretentiousness. This made the 5 of them unavoidably confused, and wondered if they felt wrong. However, the flow and reduction of the source force stopped strangely just now. "It really has nothing to do with you?" Kai Gui asked with a frown. Yang Kai snorted and said, I am a source of Tao, how can I get this kind of thing under the noses of you people? If the reduction of the original power here is really a man-made reason, it has nothing to do with me, it is definitely one person's hands and feet, but it will be planted on my head. You can't be so despicable. Whoever did it will stand up. Seeing him being so upright and strict, everyone couldn't help being puzzled. Although the hatchback confirmed that everyone felt that the source of the problem was on this small island, but what Yang Kai said was correct, how could he do such a thing with a source of Tao? The well-dressed young man said thoughtfully, the anomaly in Yuan Sea began to appear half a month ago. It was not a big movement at the beginning, but it became more and more obvious as it progressed, and your kid came here half a month ago. €. Hearing what he said, the other four looked at Yang Kai with strange expressions, suspicious. After all, the timing was too coincidental. You can eat indiscriminately, but you can't talk indiscriminately. Yang Kai stared at him and said, if this friend talks nonsense, be careful that I'm not polite to you. You're not polite to me. The brightly dressed young man's eyes widened, as if he heard the funniest joke in the world. He grinned and said, I'd like to see. Why are you being rude to me? He is also an Emperor Senior stage. Although Yang Kai took his blow earlier, it seems that the strength is not bad, but he really doesn't think Yang Kai can be an enemy of himself. If it was really a life-and-death battle, he believed that Yang Kai could be killed within 3 moves. Okay, since it's not a problem here, it must be some abnormal change in Yuan Sea. I don't know what impermanence means, but at this time, I stood up and made a smooth game, which can be regarded as a solution for Yang Kai around. Yang Kai glanced at him suspiciously, but he pretended not to notice. He just said, instead of entangled in unfounded things here, it is better to go back and absorb and refine. Although the origin in the origin sea has decreased a lot, it has not completely disappeared. I believe it is enough to meet everyone's needs. The fat man nodded and said, well, that's not bad. The well-dressed young man and the red ghost seemed to have no good solution, but the Emperor's son Yao Si said in a deep voice, boy, no matter whether the previous changes in Yuan Sea are your problem or not, you must leave this place now. This is the Emperor's place. With your current strength, you are not qualified to set foot there. Yang Kai turned his head and glanced at him, then sneered softly and said, if you say you are not qualified, then you are not qualified. Have you asked my opinion? This guy wants to drive him away. Yang Kai is naturally unwilling to cooperate, although most of the original power in the original sea has been scraped away by him, but there is still a lot left. The law of heaven and earth in mysterious Shaoji has not been completed, the Dharma body showed no signs of breaking through the Emperor, and he didn't feel the opportunity to break through. If he left at this time, wouldn't his success fall short? Yao Si shrank his eyes and said coldly, go or die. I will give you 3 breaths to choose. Try it yourself. Yang Kai squinted at him. Everyone was startled, and looked at Yang Kai in horror. Ida Euros fine if Ida Euros the other new emperors. Although Yang Kai is only Dao Yuan 3rd layer, he seems to be strong and has a bit of crowd capital, but who is Yao Si? He is the son of the Emperor. The descendants of the Eastern Ghost Emperor. All the Emperor Senior realm present were afraid of him. Although they were not timid in front of him, they did not dare to talk to him like this. But Yang Kai actually asked him to try it out. Where does this kid have the confidence to talk to a son of the Emperor in such a tone? The well-dressed young man was particularly stunned, thinking that this guy was a fool, so why was he competing with such a fool just now? He shook his head slowly, feeling that Yang Kai must die now. If he offended him, he might not do anything deadly, at most he would teach Yang Kai a lesson, but if he offended Yao Si, there is no life left. Impermanence also changed his face slightly, but he didn't say anything more. He was able to speak out to help Yang Kai out of the siege just now, and it was also because he came out of the Southern Territory. In the Southern Territory, he could compete with Yang Kai. It doesn't matter if you fight or die, but in this broken star sea, in front of the powerhouses of the other 3 domains, he can't just sit back and watch Yang Kai be bullied. But now he realizes that this guy Yang Kai is simply unreasonable, so provoking a son of the great emperor, what good end can he have? Rigidity is easy to break, this kid is still too young and energetic. For a moment, the atmosphere suddenly froze, and even the void was filled with cold murderous intent. Yao Si looked at Yang Kai indifferently, his eyes were cold, as if he was looking at a dead person. To his surprise, Yang Kai was not afraid at all, the burning gaze made him slightly shaken. Yao Si's complexion sank, and just as he was about to attack Yang Kai, a beam of rainbow light quickly came from afar, as fast as a thunderbolt, and flew above the crowd. Everyone shrank their eyes and looked up at the sky together, not knowing who was coming, but they were so ostentatious. And when the rainbow light dissipated, a burly middle-aged man suddenly appeared. He looked down with wide-eyed eyes, his expression was extremely excited, and his eyes shone brightly, as if a beast that had been hungry for countless years had seen its prey. But soon, he trembled all over, swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and his expression became stiff. The 6 people below stared at him covetously, and 5 of them were in the Emperor's senior realm. He came here with great enthusiasm, but he never expected that it would be like this when he showed up, so scared that he almost turned around and left immediately. Although he doesn't pay much attention to the General Emperor's senior realm, but there are as many as 5 people here, if they really fight, he is definitely not an opponent. Huh! Yang Kai let out a low cry, and looked towards the person with high spirits, both surprised and delighted in his heart. What surprised him was that he knew the person who came, and what pleased him was that he planned to find this person after this trip to the Sea of A Broken Stars was over, but he didn't expect him to come to his door. Wu Mengchuan, the master of the Jade Feather sect, the descendant of the Heaven-Devouring Emperor. The Heaven-Devouring battle technique was taught by Wu Mengchuan to Yang Kai, but Yang Kai never dared to practice it, so he handed it over to the Dharma body, and the Dharma body practiced it very happily, and his cultivation base increased extremely fast. But recently, Dharma body felt that there was a bottleneck in his cultivation, and he guessed it was because of his skills. Perhaps, the heaven-devouring art that Wu Mengchuan taught Yang Kai back then was not complete. Yang Kai wanted to go to Wu Mengchuan, just to ask about the heaven-devouring battle technique, and get the complete cultivation technique from him, otherwise the cultivation base of the Dharma body would most likely remain stagnant. Back then, Yang Kai was only at the 3rd level of Void King, so he was not Wu Mengchuan's opponent, but now he is at the 3rd level of Daoyuan, so naturally there is no need to be afraid of him. The two had different thoughts, yet they met here, which seemed extremely unexpected. Why do cats and dogs dare to come here? The young man in strong clothes curled his lips unhappily after discovering that Wu Mengchuan was also a Daoyuan 3rd level realm. He let Yang Kai in before, because Yang Kai took his blow, he was eager to absorb the original power of refining this place, and he didn't want to waste time and energy on Yang Kai, but now, another Dao origin stage came unexpectedly. Arrived at this site that belongs to Emperor Senior Realm. Just kill it, Kai Gui snorted coldly. Wu Mengchuan was shocked when he heard the words. Although he didn't know what the 6 people below were doing, it was obvious that the eyes of the 5 emperors looked at him with extremely malicious intentions. He quickly wiped his forehead in a cold sweat. He said, I'm sorry, I stumbled into the precious treasure land by mistake, so I will retreat now, and please calm down. Saying so, he glanced at Yang Kai intentionally or unintentionally, and with a strange expression, he turned around and was about to leave. Although he recognized Yang Kai, and remembered that he taught Yang Kai the heaven-devouring art in the bone prison, but under the close-range sensing, he did not notice any traces of cultivating the heaven-devouring art from Yang Kai. This made Wu Mengchuan puzzled. Because the mature seed he sensed was the wave emanating from here, but when he hurried to the place, the wave disappeared, but unexpectedly saw Yang Kai. He was confused and didn't know what was going on.